This episode of An Unexpected Podcast is brought to you by Catherine Delby. Thank you. Hello, friends, and welcome to An Unexpected Podcast. I'm Ez.
And I'm Lane.
And we're talking Tolkien.
We're coming to you from the Shire of America, the beautiful state of Ohio, in a little village called Duh.
This week, we are finding our roots as we cover Treebeard as a part of our journey through Middle-earth. Or should I say, I don't know.
How many sounds, Ez?
Not sure. It actually kind of fits in. I just got back from the International Dyslexia Association. That's right. I'm sure that's why you did that.
It actually is.
You're so clever.
I can't be that quick.
You're so clever.
I'm not really. I'm not, but thanks.
Sometimes I wonder if you plan this out ahead of time. It's great. We do have an outline.
Only
but
seconds in advance.
Yeah. All right, guys. So into our table of contents.
We just have one special thing of note. We do have an Entish song. It may be the Entwives song. It may be the Entwives song. So, just stick around. That's going to be inserted in here at some point, and it's beautiful. So
it is
pretty
actually
cool. Kind of like it could be almost a companion piece of music to go with Ephraim's Song of the Ents.
And I think we'll see how well my editing skills are this week. I think I will try and put...
There's a lot of rust going on, huh?
Yeah, a lot of it, yeah. We'll see if I can put Ephraim's song in there at the end of the for our outro.
Come back to me, baby.
Yep. So, all right, into Quick Counsel.
Yeah, man. It's like there's a rust for a reason because life's just crazy right now, huh?
It is crazy.
We said we'd take a little longer here, and so, if you...
Let's talk about some things.
Let's do it.
So, first of all, today we were out doing Trick or Treat in Amanda.
But you kept calling Trunk or Treat.
Yeah, I know. That's how I grew up, man.
Living in a car.
I did it, man. But no, we were out there. Some good costumes, some good time. It was freezing cold, raining.
Yeah, it was a high of like 45 today.
Right.
And just spit and rain the whole time. Beautiful fall, winter weather. We're loving it.
Yeah, we are actually.
I actually really do.
Well, you made us some hot cider. We went out there and
Sarah made it. I just brought it to you.
Okay, well,
I was your cider boy.
There you go. Whatever works. So we had fun with that. I recently just got back from a trip. So we're gonna go and we're starting with today, and we're gonna go back to the week and then last week, and we'll explain.
This is perfect because our next chapter of appendices, guys. We're actually gonna talk time travel.
Okay,
so let's fit right in.
That's good.
Okay,
all right, I like it. So then this past week I was in Massachusetts.
Mm-hmm.
I was at the International Dyslexia Association conference. Mm-hmm. My school sent me there, and it was a lot of fun. I was with some other colleagues, and we had a good time. So, but it was busy. I mean, every day I was like, had to be there.
12-hour days, wasn't it?
It was 12-hour days, if not more. And then you had the socials afterwards, which were cool.
Was your hotel close, or was it far away?
Oh yeah, it was like 2 minutes down the road.
Oh, it's perfect.
But we didn't have time to run back and forth to the hotel. You know what I'm saying? And we were in different hotels, one car, sharing it.
Yeah.
So it was, rough life, right, Ez? Jeez.
Yeah.
But I don't know. It was just kind of exhausting. And then last week, the power went out, man. We couldn't even record.
Yeah, it was fitting we had candles because it was Viggo Mortensen's birthday. Happy birthday, Viggo.
Yeah.
Woo!
Yeah.
Yeah. 60, you don't look a day over 65, man.
Right.
So that was, we were really kind of amped to record because it was, magnanimous day that way. And just the power went out, guys. And we were like, well, what are we going to do? We're just going to wait around, see if it comes back on. Yeah, we did. And we waited in the dark. And as soon as Ez left, came back on. And I texted him or called him. I can't remember which. And I just said, dude, power just came back on.
Yeah.
And it was just one of those times we were excited to record, but we needed time. The last 2 weeks have been kind of crazy for both of us. We needed a second to, I think, just hang out and not just to be with each other, just to hang out with each other.
Yeah, I always think it's important too. We often talk that we want to hang out before we start the show. You know, I mean, just life is crazy, man.
Yeah, it is.
It's just crazy right now. So,
but anyway, thank you guys for being patient and giving us grace for, it's like the old days, isn't it? A fortnight coming out in a fortnight.
Yeah,
so it's funny. This is how long we used to have to wait to meet in between chapters. But
so for some of those newer listeners who then caught up with us after that time, they're like, what's this? You know,
Yeah,
this waiting a fortnight type of thing.
Mm-hmm.
But that's definitely what we used to do. So
that only would have taken us 6 years to get through the
no big
6
deal.
books.
Now we're flying along. It's great.
Yeah.
But anyways, no. So things have been crazy though. So
are you gonna say this?
I'm not gonna say this exactly, but I'm gonna talk about like social media and talk about just our lives.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because this is not like, you know, we talk for 2.5 hours here, and we prep for another, you know, hour, and then we spend another hour after. It's like a 4. I mean, when I come over here, it's like good 6-7 hours. Read throughout the week. It's just kind of crazy. So, you know, Lane had recently said like Facebook was, you know, you're done.
Yeah, I'm pretty much. For now. Yeah, for now. I mean, I don't know. I'm not going to articulate it very well, and it's really kind of hard to describe. But I don't know. I've had this. It's just this weird feeling. I'm like, you know, I want to be off that. I want to be off Instagram. And honestly, the only reason I'm checking in Facebook now is to keep up with the group,
right?
To make posts in there to see what's going on there. But yeah, I just had this. I don't know. Like my phone is full of all this. I'm not gonna say junk, but junk.
Some of it's negativity.
Yeah.
It's
and it's not even that. It's just like a bunch of different apps. I looked at my phone and I was like, how much of this stuff how many of these apps do I actually use?
Yeah.
How many do I actually use? And that's just like a microcosm for other stuff going on with me. I'm taking inventory of my life, I think, is what I'm doing. And because time is such a precious thing, right? And I'm thinking, what do I have time for? And what do I, like what do I want to have time for?
Yeah.
And so I'm trimming the fat. I'm getting rid of stuff that is either I'm doing just because it's mindless or it's just there, and I'm making sure I get that out of the way so that I'm focusing on what's important. And so that's been part of it. I went through and deleted a bunch of apps. I'm thinking about getting a dumb phone. I didn't bring that up to you yet. I'm thinking about getting a dumb phone.
That's fine.
Because we had this conversation on the Discord.
Not smart, but yeah.
Right. I don't like that phones can't fit in your one hand anymore. It drives me crazy.
Yeah.
It drives me nuts. I want the good old does anyone else miss that?
Dude.
Just a phone you could hold in one hand and confidently text with just your thumb.
Right.
It's not like a freaking laptop in your pocket.
Yeah.
You know?
Do you remember the T9, like texting with T9 where you had to like press 3 times
all the
to
buttons?
get the
Yeah. You know what? Your text had to be pretty important to send. You know what I mean?
That was something, because now it's like everything is on a touch screen. You know, so like that actual pressing of the button itself.
Yeah.
You had to,
None of
it's
them
like
have
a
buttons
keyboard.
anymore.
It's like you had to press it down.
Yeah.
You know, to actually.
Even
isn't
the new
that crazy?
iPhone has no home button anymore.
Right.
There's no buttons on phones. It just, I don't get it.
It's crazy, isn't it?
So
It's
anyway,
crazy. So,
yeah.
But no, so you've been having that going on. And guys, honestly, all I'm going to say is that there's a lot that I want to say, but I don't want to, like, you know, Ez has been just stressed, man, the last couple of weeks. I'm, you know, just a lot of negativity in my job and different things. And so I got to figure out what I'm doing.
Yeah.
I got to figure out what I'm doing. And
Future is open to you, young man.
the future is open to me, and I want to figure out what it is I want to do, you know, and what's the next step, where do I go, you know, and that type of thing. So I'd love to do this full time, but that's a ways off.
Gotta make some money. Yeah,
that's a ways off.
Yep.
But like I don't know. It's been, so if you see us not on social media as much, it's just because it's been kind of a crazy fall for us, and
Yep.
you've had some other things go on. I've had some other things going on. So we just wanted to get that clear, you know, toss it out there for you guys to know and understand, and hopefully, you know.
Yeah.
So
Just taking a little sabbatical. That's all.
Yeah.
I also want to make this is kind of a not a downer of a quick counsel, is it? Kind of. I want to apologize for Ez and I. Ez came to my rugby match last Saturday. I went in Lancaster, talking to our buddy Kevin McKeegan, who is just he's a legendary human being. I love him to death. And he actually listens and is a huge Tolkien fan. Loves all kinds of mythology, actually. Anyway, he was like, "Hey, I recommended your guys' podcast to my brother because my nieces and nephews are starting to read Lord of the Rings." I was like, "Oh, sweet, dude." He was like, "Yeah." He let me know they got like 2 episodes in and there was some language. I was like, "Oh, whoa!" I was like, probably just like, you know. Damn or hell or something like that, right? I was like, we sort of limited. He was like, think it was an F-bomb, man. I was like, oh my gosh. So
There's no way.
I don't remember saying it, but that's not saying much. I don't remember a lot of things I say, which is a problem. But
Yeah.
I want to apologize for that. I'm really, really sorry that if when I have used the mother of all curses, that if it's been on here, I really apologize for that. Please don't let that be a reflection on what you think of listening to us. And actually, oddly enough, us doing this has helped me kind of clean up and also have Winnie watch my mouth a little bit more,
Yeah.
which is since I was a little kid, and despite all my parents' hard work, I have had I like colorful language. I just do. I do. So
Yeah, but you're not a guy who's out and you're also a teacher, so it's not like
yeah. I know how to control, and I think that's also why when I'm not in school,
right,
I'm a little more colorful or flamboyant with my tongue. I don't know.
We unwind here. I
We
get
do.
what you're saying.
We do. So, and I know that you guys understand that. I'm just. It's for a specific group of people. I'm putting out that apology because I'm really sorry, and I hope that wasn't a turnoff. I just want everyone to be happy. That's all. I do also have a special shout out. I've got a special shout out to Sam's grandson. Sam is one half of the secretaries that run my school, Sam and Janine.
Okay.
And if you work in a school, if you've visited a school, if you ever had anything to do with the school, the secretaries run the school, man.
They do. Yes, they do.
They and the custodians, they know everything.
They do.
They will be your best friends. If you treat them poorly, they'll be your worst enemies, and they're incredible people. But Sam's grandson, Jack, is I want to say he's 10 or under. I don't know how old Jack is, but he's a huge, he's getting into Lord of the Rings, getting into fantasy. She calls him an old soul. He's like a 40-year-old and in a 10-year-old's body. And but anyway, he's starting to listen, so I wanted to give him a special shout out because I told her I would.
Yeah.
And Jack, I'm glad you're on board, my man. So
that's awesome. Well, honestly, to any youngster, because I was we read a lot of the Bywater Post stories, and a lot of people get into reading because of The Hobbit or these different things. So if you have youngsters who want to listen, who want to participate or share their thoughts, I always go back to Master Yoda talking about the mind of a child, and just how it can bring a new perspective or see something that we overlooked or whatever, and simplify things. So I'd love to hear some comments from.
That'd be awesome. Maybe get Jack on here sometime.
Yeah.
All right, man.
Wow, longest quick council ever. Close. I don't know. Sorry, it was so depressing, guys. But it's like that's where we've been for the past couple.
I feel like
weeks. It's like
I'm in Fangorn waiting for Treebeard, kind of a thing. It's a scary place.
Yeah, but once he gets there, it's like
it's great.
Our spirits are lifted a little bit,
awesome event.
It's kind of dreary out too, so it's like
the weather it's gone. It's literally gone from summer to winter. There's been no fall.
Yeah,
we haven't really. How many times have we sat around the fire? Once.
Yeah, no.
Out back. It's always wet.
Weird.
It's always rainy. Always freezing cold. So,
anyways,
that's the way it goes. It's all good. Some dropping eaves.
Yeah,
time for that. So the Amazon TV show. I haven't come across anything groundbreaking. I'm sure they're, our writers are busy writing, getting everything planned out. They're probably building production teams. But I have something kind of related that I thought was really interesting.
Yeah.
And I see that you just read it, so I want to know what you think of this.
Yeah.
Pretty cool announcements recently within the last couple of weeks, maybe longer. I just noticed them. Amazon has obtained the rights to a Wheel of Time series.
Yeah.
Ezra's a huge fan of that genre. I'm sure many of you are as well. And this is related to the Tolkien verse because he was his, they're like best friends. Netflix will be bringing the Chronicles of Narnia to the small screen. They've obtained the rights for all 7 books. First time that's ever happened.
Wow.
So thoughts and reactions. Why don't you tell me about it?
Well, there's not that we often plug a lot of different other projects and things here, but there is a podcast called Wheel of Time Spoilers. And I'm in their Discord chat.
Okay.
I listen to these guys. It's amazing.
Yeah.
It's an ambitious task. I think it's 13 books or something crazy.
Yeah,
14.
You've broken it down from before in my head.
Oh my gosh!
I think it's just the first book you've gotten me into.
Oh, it's so good. Even just if you start with that first book and this, Rand Thor setting out on his journey with his friends. Perrin and Matrim Coffin.
Jack Habit.
Yeah, Jack Habit's in there, makes an appearance. He's the Dragon Reborn. All this stuff. No, but guys, like Wheel of Time, if you haven't read it, it's a great series. I know I got Nicole Whitaker kind of into it, and she started reading it as well.
Oh, cool.
So if you like Tolkien, it's actually Robert Jordan was also sort of a influenced and a student of his writings. So he just the detail and stuff, it's all there. But I think Amazon's killing it. But they're setting themselves up here for the next. When we get into
that's what I'm
2020 and on.
Yeah, it's going to depend on that execution, though.
Yeah.
I mean, are you confident with that? Like the fact that Amazon obtained it?
Yeah, I am actually. I think that
that's good.
If they were looking for, like again, Lord of the Rings, seeing what they can do with
a
that.
Rebuttal to Game of Thrones.
Yep, and A Wheel of Time is the rebuttal. So there have been talks, and I is this true? I mean, I didn't know this. So this is news to me. So it's kind of.
Yeah,
that's great. They've obtained.
Why do you
the rights.
always question my news?
No, I always question the news. Okay,
is this true? Is this real? I don't know.
I don't know. I got to check. I got to check
I'll
up on
double
stuff.
check it.
No, it's fine. But
no, I'm doing it now.
Wheel of Time, man. If it would, the only way I think you can do it is in a TV show. It's just, it's huge. There's a lot of cool stuff there with the Aes Sedai. There's so many different.
Do you trust TheVerge.com? It's one of many sources.
Sure.
Amazon has greenlit an adaptation of Robert Jordan's fantasy epic, The Wheel of Time.
Okay, yeah. So it's gonna be awesome. The fact that they have these two, they're gonna kill it. Now Netflix having the Chronicles of Narnia, that's great because that was always disappointing. I wish that they would have finished that series. I don't know
love
what
the
happened.
movies.
I liked them too.
Lion, Witch, and the Wardrobe was my favorite. Kind of liked Prince Caspian. I didn't understand the Mediterranean accents. Prince Caspian talking like this.
Yeah.
And which was fine. I was like kind of thrown off by that. And also because his accent switches then again in Don Treader. He has a British accent in Don Treader, which I really liked. I liked the guy the kid they picked to play Eustace. Anyway, I'm really excited about that. I was wondering if you'd ever want to start a Narnia book club in the distant future.
Wow. That would be crazy.
Because I love those stories. I love I love Lewis's works. C.S. Lewis actually kind of plays a part in this chapter because he was a source of inspiration for Treebeard.
Oh wow!
In some ways.
Yeah.
So anyway, I'm excited about that. I don't know how
I would
Netflix.
love to.
Yeah, I don't know if Netflix is going to release these as films or if it'll also be a TV show. I think it would be cool if you did. There's 7 books, right?
Yeah.
If you could do 7 seasons, each season's a book.
Yeah.
That would be pretty cool. That would be awesome. I don't know how they're going to do it, the format, but
right.
There's a lot of detail you can get into those stories as well, and they all connect.
Yeah. Have you ever seen the old? I think it's from
the 80s.
Yeah, 89, 88.
Yeah. I don't remember them well, but
yeah, were they TV shows or were they movies or they were a series? I think they were a series.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know.
BBC do
BBC. Yeah.
Yeah.
Those were awesome. That was the first time I had actually seen Narnia was in that format with my mom. Got to see it.
Oh, awesome. Man.
Yeah, she loved him. Yeah. So really liked his works.
Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe actually has the record for the most times I've ever seen a specific film in the theater.
Dude, you were obsessed.
I was obsessed. I saw that. I even did what was it? 12 Days of Narnia on, do you remember, what was that website we all had?
Huh?
It was like it was like free, it was like pre-Facebook.
Oh, you're talking about
Zanga. It was a Zanga page.
Zanga?
Do you remember Zanga?
Holy smokes.
Yeah, dude.
Yes.
I had a Zanga page and I made the 12 Days of Narnia a song, and I was obsessed with Susan Pevensey.
I loved
Susan.
I just searched the cast.
And the last line was, and a hot date with Susan Pevensey. I made this
Yeah.
whole 12 days of Narnia. I was so obsessed. I had
loved her. I remember that because I was
Yeah, I
pulling
did.
her up. I pulled
I
up the
did.
cast of Narnia.
Yeah.
And you had the biggest crush on her, and I was like,
she was quiet. She could shoot a bow and arrow. I mean, yeah, I was a freshman or something.
Yeah, exactly.
Sophomore, something like that.
I
Yeah.
remember. That's so crazy.
Yeah, but I love that movie. Here's what's really kind of the fifth time, really the fourth or fifth time I had seen it on my own. I was by myself, and it was like right after school. So I literally left high school, went and saw it at like 3:00. I'm walking out at 5, and I was like, "This is getting a little sad." I remember thinking in my head, "It's okay to like a movie, but this is a little sad, dude."
Your 7-year-old
by yourself.
self would be crying.
Yes,
at your
actually, yeah, dude. That's
Yeah.
what it was. My interior, in my what is that? Internal 7-year-old was going, man, this guy's really lonely.
This is sad. Yeah,
He's seen it 5 times in a week. Like, come on,
Right.
man, space it out.
That's crazy.
So anyway, That's pretty exciting. Still no release date on the Tolkien biopic. I did come across some new pictures from the production though, like production photos and the ones I hadn't seen before, and so I'm still really excited about that. We'll see if it comes out in the next decade or so. Gotcha. Yeah, you get your hand raised. What's going on?
Well, before I forget and before we move on out of that section, anyone who is interested in making a Zanga page or a MySpace page for the podcast, please feel free.
Is Zanga still around?
I don't even know. But if Zanga's there or MySpace, please make us a page.
Zanga 2.0 is here, guys.
No way.
I'm looking at it right now.
Dude, I had a Zanga page, man.
Everyone did. That was like pre-Facebook, man.
That's crazy to think about. Wow.
Oh, that was cool. Good times, man.
Anyways, all right.
You get one comment, you were like so excited. Oh, that's my buddy. You commented.
Yeah.
In other corners of Middle Earth, the Billy Boyd World Tour continues to roll on. Is it with Charlotte now?
It's with Charlotte.
Okay, so we're going to be getting some pictures soon from Charlotte, and then it will continue on.
And then Charlotte, just let us know. We'll send you the next address, and you can keep it moving.
Yeah. Should be good. Billy moving around. Get his name out there.
Yeah.
Some poll results from a fortnight ago. We asked that question, the little name dilemma we've had. For crotch fruit.
Oh my gosh.
Number 2, there's a story behind the whole me calling the future baby crotch fruit. It's not my term, so
it's not your term. No, but
I think it's hilarious.
You've adopted.
Should Smith baby number 2 be a lad? He shall be named Vigo or Woodson. 155 of you voted. This was a hot one. And Ez was right, and I back in my head, I knew it was going to happen. Vigo with 92%.
Yeah.
Woodson with 8%. Had some great comments. A lot of people said, I like the combination. I like Vigo Woodson Smith. It's a cool name.
I really
like
that.
It is. And I want.
You could call him Woody.
You could. Yes, you could. But I want my dad's name in there too. But I'm conflicted, man. And Kurt was like, hey, man, Vigo Woodson Joel Smith sounds good.
Yeah.
Do the 3 names, and I like that, but I don't want to diminish my father's name. You know what I mean? So I got to figure that out.
You may have another son.
I think we're calling it, bud.
Really?
I think we're calling it too. Well,
we'll see.
I'm really hoping it's a girl, so I don't have to deal with this.
Yeah, you don't know. Yeah.
So anyway, that was pretty cool. I think the best part of that was, though, I was like thrilled with the GIFs I found for that, because the one is Vigo at the Oscars, and he's like turning to the left. And it's almost like he's looking at the GIF of Charles Woodson, like, number 1, and he's like looking over his shoulder, kind of scared, and clapping.
Yeah, oh, that's right. Yeah,
I was like, just got a kick out of that. So, awesome. Oh, and there, you want to talk about the meetup in the possible future with Chase McKinney? Is this kind of unofficial, official?
Yeah, I don't know. Did they actually put a date on that? Like,
it has been in the group, hasn't it?
It's been in the group for sure, but it's one of those things that I kind of wanted to know if it was if they had a date.
I don't know. Yeah, I didn't notice that.
Well, I can do a quick search here for it. But they're meeting up. And, go ahead.
Yeah, the concept is that kind of like how we had the long expected party. You guys uppers are wanting to have like meetups. A lot of you are close together in the country and haven't ever met before. You're kind of regional in the same area and want to get together and have a party. And so Chase has headed up this like first one to get people together in the Texas area.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd really like to go to this.
I would like to go to this too. And here's the thing.
Could we road trip it? Could we drive?
We could fly too.
I'm just kind of scared to fly.
Are you really?
Dude, okay, you want too much information?
Yes, I do.
I always get really backed up when I fly, and it takes about 3 weeks to get back on schedule, man. I mean,
you just have to make sure it's like
how old do I sound?
You just have to make sure
it doesn't matter, bud. It doesn't matter, because I know we'll get there at 4 a.m. in the morning, and then my breakfast will be off, and I won't have processed it, and I won't go for the next 3 weeks.
Oh my gosh.
Road trip's easier. You can stop at one of those travel centers. They got great toilets. You're fine.
Right. Yeah.
So anyway.
Well, I think it would be neat, because one thing we could do is we could maybe set up like if we had a chance to go, it would be a lot of fun for us to road trip down there. If you could do like a long weekend or something, set up kind of look at dates. So they don't have any dates listed yet, but we've got a lot of interest in it, and people are talking about going. So people who live in Houston, I think Shelby lives in Houston, so some other folks live around that area. So if we did one there, and then I'm planning on going in the summer to England.
Oh man, I'm so jealous.
Yeah, so some of our England folks, I'd like to, roll down there and meet
just
with
don't
them
have too much fun without me, guys. Okay.
I don't know. We'll see.
Wow, dude.
So okay. Anyways, yeah, that's
seriously. Is that really how you just responded? Well, I don't know. We'll see. We'll probably have more fun without you, Lane.
That's not what I was saying. Just saying that we're gonna have fun.
If only we were friends.
Can't have.
Well, come on. I was just saying, save a little in the tank for when Goldberry and Winnie and me get over there.
Oh, I will.
I'm talking to all of you. Okay.
Okay.
Talking to all of you.
All right, that's fine. I get you.
All right.
I can't win tonight. All right.
Welcome to my life.
So okay, in other corners here, just real quick, we had every time I come across something in the old inbox that we didn't discuss in Bywater Post or that isn't a Tolkien story, I either miss it or it kind of comes up later. And so Robert Williams actually sent us something. He's greeting us from Bree, and he sent us a couple things here. And this is a chapter. This is back on. This is the Bridge of Khazad-dûm.
Wow.
Yeah, and so what's interesting about that is that next chapter we're going to have some cool connections with that, right, as well.
Yes.
And a couple things had been coming back to my mind from previous chapters. So I'm reading today's chapter, and I couldn't help but to think about the Barrow-downs and the Barrows. I don't know why. But I couldn't help it because of the creepiness, and sort of the last time. And these two are on their own, Pippin and Merry, and also it's Halloween. It's Halloween.
Yes, it is.
And so all of that was in my mind. So I'm thinking back to these previous chapters, and so I came across this, and I thought I'd read just a little bit here from Robert, and he just kind of talks about. He's like, he has two big memories that are connected to that chapter. The first one was from when he read the books years ago, sitting on his front porch in the summer, unable to put the book down, excitement growing as Gandalf stands on the bridge to defy the Balrog. Yeah. Okay, so getting us, kind of hyped again to, next chapter is going to be good, guys. I'm just going to say like the Treebeard is cool, but it's going to be a great.
Well, you're giddy as a schoolboy because
anytime anyone wants to talk about Gandalf, I'm down.
Right.
So he shows his powers, his wisdom, breaking the bridge, defeating the creature, and then tears streaming down my face as Gandalf falls into the abyss. Yeah. So, there's that. Secondly, actually more to do with the Two Towers movie, but in my mind, it is connected to the chapter. But in my mind, it is connected to this chapter even more. Opening night, sitting there excited and wondering, where did Peter Jackson decide to jump back in? We got one of the things that I expected as well. And he's kind of talking about the scene where that follows Gandalf as he falls.
Is that like the best opening to a film you've
I
ever
think,
seen?
Yeah, exactly. And to hear
it's incredible.
The echoing of his voice and all that kind of stuff,
And you think it's just going to be this, scenic shot that goes into our characters.
Yeah.
In the next installment. Like, snowy mountains. Okay, we're going to go down. We're going to find Frodo and Sam, and they're in Em and Muel.
Right.
No.
Right.
No.
You hear...
We're going to take you back, dog. Yeah.
You're just looking at the mountains.
You shall not find.
Right, but you hear that echoing kind of come, and then boom, you shoot right back in there.
Right through.
And you're able to kind of pick right back up. It's fantastic. I don't even know if they needed to... Peter Jackson needed to recap. I could almost just fly into that mountain and mid-fall pick up on
oh my gosh
where this is at.
Yeah.
And just be like, what?
Yeah.
Holy smokes.
It's almost like he was tested. Are they paying attention right off the bat?
Right, because again, it's
picking the clues here.
Movie, yeah. So, but he just kind of finishes with a little, let's go Gandalf, let's go get him. Come on, still geeking out and rewatching it. So, just wanted to kind of bring that up because as they come up in the inbox, guys, I've got to kind of talk about them. So
I like that. That's cool.
Yeah. So, anyways,
again, time travel.
Yeah, and again, Robert is from Bree, as he says, Cincinnati. So, that's just down the road.
That is.
Yeah. Okay.
Oh, that's cool.
All right, guys. I think we are ready.
Get another reread here.
For the reread.
All right.
We've decided to do this one a little bit differently just because we quite honestly could have broken this into, I think, 2 episodes.
Yeah. It's a long chapter.
And since we didn't do that, we didn't prep you guys with it. I mean, we could pull an audible right now and do it if we wanted to. But
Oklahoma.
What you doing, Shane? But we're gonna kind of just pull some of the major takeaways and kind of talk about them.
Sure.
What we thought was cool, what we thought was interesting. Read a couple passages and kind of go through it in that regard. So versus a line by line analysis
Yeah.
like we typically do.
Yeah. It's just it's
it
easy to
okay?
get sucked into. Absolutely, I'm good with that.
Okay.
I told you to keep me on track, though, right?
Yeah, and I want
I'm
you
leaving it
you
up
get
to you.
you get lost in it. That's fine, and I will pull you back out.
All right, sounds
That's
good.
what we'll do. Okay.
Thanks,
so,
Mary.
Yeah. In recap, Pippin and Merry are in the custody of the orcs. They kind of as we know they were traveling
Mistreated
with great speed. Yeah. The orcs. I was thinking again Halloween, and I looked at all the costumes out here, and I was thinking, where's the good orc mask costume? Where's it?
It's waiting for us, man.
Yeah.
We gotta don that.
We do. We need to.
We really do.
Yeah. What was it? What were they? Grishnock?
Grishnock and Ugluk.
Ugluk. Yeah.
If only we knew a
I know. Could you?
makeup artist,
Oh my.
prosthetics specialist.
Oh my gosh.
Tammy,
think-
if you're listening, could you send us a
No, do you think
a
if
face
we
mask
do
in
you
the
think
mail?
if we went out there, do you think Tammy would make us up?
Did you just think up a really cool journey for us?
I did, and
think
I
so.
also thought of a new patron goal. So there
Yeah.
we go, guys.
Fly out to Los Angeles. We get Tammy some drinks. Dude, what if she did it drunk?
Well, she'd have to because that's how she.
That's how she operates.
That's how she operates. So,
But like really like funny drunk.
yeah, and it'd be great.
Yeah, it'd be great.
And we could record part 2.
while she's putting it on.
She could tell stories. Dude, she could make us out as orcs. That would be nuts.
We both have to shave.
I'd pay for the materials.
Bro, we both have to shave.
Yeah, it's okay.
That'd be awesome.
It'd be worth it, wouldn't it?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay, sorry.
And she could sign it. Oh,
fantastic.
get out of here. Okay.
Yes. All right, we're done. Sorry. So, anyways, they're kind of they've been taken captive here, and the two groups are fighting.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So we've got the orcs from Mordor, and we've got the orcs from Isengard, and Pippin takes advantage of that. He's able to cut the bonds that are wrapped around his hands, and loosens that knot. Puts it, kind of puts it back on, and super stealthy. Right. He's dropping his. He's making Hobbit footprints. He's dropping his leaf,
His brooch.
Is his brooch, and so laying the trail for his companions to kind of find.
That's right. Yeah.
So, Éomer and his men though end up attacking, and Pippin and Merry and Pippin are able to escape into Fangorn Forest.
Yeah.
So, now summary.
And that's where we find them. We find them kind of making their way into the Fangorn. The Fangorn Forest? Fangorn Forest.
Yeah.
They get in there. They take a little drink of water, kind of make their way up this rock wall, and, well, they encounter an Ent who's named by name of Treebeard.
By name of Treebeard.
Okay?
Yeah.
We learn a lot about what Ents are. We learn who this Treebeard is. We learn about Fangorn Forest. He even invites us over to his house. Okay? We go to one of his houses.
Yes.
We go to Welling Hall. We find out that we do a lot of walking and talking with Treebeard. We find out that he's a friend of Gandalf. That Saruman has he's aware of this treachery and that orcs have been passing in and out of Fangorn. We also learn that Ents had Entwives and Ent maidens, and what's happened to them and why they can't find them. And that this population of Ents is dwindling because there are no young Ents because of the loss of the Entwives. And then Treebeard, he knows something's got to be done here.
Yeah.
He knows that if he can, he has to rouse the Ents. So he calls for Entmoot. All these Ents gather and they discuss what's going on. Now, you got to understand, to say anything in Entish, it takes a long time.
Yes, it does.
And you only talk about things that are worthwhile. So it really takes a long time. So while they're discussing, Merry and Pippin hang out with probably an Ent that you and I would get along with. He's a little brasher, a little more smart-mouthed, Quickbeam, who got his name from answering a question before the Ent was done asking it. And by the end, they hear this silence and then this roaring coming towards them, and the Ents are marching to Isengard to deal with Saruman, to deal with his treachery. Yeah. So.
It's a fantastic chapter. There's a lot, and we're gonna pull just as we can, some interesting tidbits. I just looked up some stuff on Tolkien Gateway as you were talking there about Treebeard.
Yeah.
And it notes it mentions that he's the eldest person in Middle Earth. Let me let that linger for a second. Did you notice that? I mean, did you So I mean,
so is he Tom's daddy?
well, I mean, so Tom is fatherless, right? He's
Are Tom and Treebeard the same person?
the same person. Here we go. Our Treebeard.
How can both of them be the oldest?
That's I
Never
don't know.
mind. I've guys foot in my mouth. I don't know the Silmarillion. Don't crucify me. I don't know.
Well, this is information taken from the Silmarillion, talking about the Year of the Trees and his creation and things. So we're going to get into how because when he's talking about Saruman, he refers to him as young Saruman.
Yeah, that's right.
And he refers to he talks about the elves.
Well, if you look at that timeline, he is.
He is, exactly.
Yeah.
And he talks about when the Astari came.
Was it the second age or the third age? When did the Astari come?
Oh,
Testing your knowledge real
why
quick.
would you do that?
Sorry.
Why would you ask me? Lane,
Well, I looked at the timeline. Okay, so
there's rules on the podcast. Never ask Ez anything that he doesn't have an answer prepped for.
It was that Life magazine, right? The Time? Was it Time or
yeah.
Life? And they had this really cool, because I get lost in those timeline guys. I drown. But I was looking at it and I was like, holy cow, I'm going to sit down. I'm going to go from beginning all the way to the end. And I'm going to try and follow it, even though I don't know all these different groups of whatevers.
Yeah.
I noticed that, I was pretty far in before.
Third age.
There you go.
1,000 years.
Before the Astari showed up. And I was like, whoa. So Gandalf wasn't around when Sauron was defeated, at the Battle of the Last Alliance.
Yeah.
I was just blown. I guess I had never really realized that before, because, he's someone, if he had been around, he would have been fighting there. He would have been there with Elrond and Elendil and Gil-galad. So anyway.
Well, it's interesting because they talk,
So he would be young compared to Treebeard.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. But it's one of those things like, and he knows them again. The Astari, the wizards they're in disguise,
right?
Which is another cool thing.
Yeah.
Okay, they're disguised as old men.
Yeah.
And really they're spirits that were sent.
Yes,
from,
that's right. Yeah.
But they are Maiar. Right. So, which is kind of neat. But it does say, I'll just look this up. The Astari came to Middle Earth around the year 1000 in the Third Age.
Wow.
So it says, though the blue wizards may have arrived much earlier, each wizard was assigned a color for his clothes. Cool
stuff.
Got a lot of interesting stuff there. So we'll talk about that in a bit. Because, because we mentioned Saruman here, and actually that's something that Pippin and Merry want to know more about. Who is he? Mm-hmm. Who is this guy? And he kind of talks about how he ascended to the head of the White Council, which is kind of neat.
That's true. Yes, that is true.
Okay. All right. Awesome.
Sorry about that. Kind of rambled. It was so much for keeping it short, huh? You want to kind of get in here?
Yeah, let's dive in here. So, okay.
Right
we've got a couple. Man, we got to share these pictures too with the folks that you found.
They're cool,
because,
aren't they?
Lane pulled some really neat. There we go. Where are we at?
We're in Fangorn.
You guys hear that?
Is that too loud?
That's good. I like it. So yeah, we're in the forest now, and we start with Merry and Pippin kind of making their way through there. So I'll just read the beginning here to get us started. Meanwhile, the hobbits went with as much speed as the dark and the tangled forest allowed, following the line of the running stream, westward and up towards the slopes of the mountains, deeper and deeper into Fangorn. Slowly their fear of the orcs died away. Now that's interesting.
Yeah.
It's proximity, right?
Yep,
but
sure.
it's also as they get into this tangle.
Yep.
And their pace slackened. A queer, stifling feeling came over them, as if the air were too thin or too scanty for breathing.
Isn't that interesting?
Yeah.
Envision this like suffocating forest.
Well, they talk about the density of the trees and just how, even these brown leaves that look like they should be falling, they're kind of still caught up in the trees.
Yeah.
They're unable to fall.
Yeah.
Which I think is interesting. So
different kind of atmosphere.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, but it's kind of a spooky feel.
It is, man.
It feels like it's
for Halloween.
Yeah. It definitely is, and it's weird in the way in which Treebeard kind of shows up. They're commenting on this forest.
Yeah.
Right. They're making some commentary.
Yeah. I love the so it's not skipping too far ahead. I had this bracketed and wowed and underlined all the way through. Pippin was just talking about how it reminded him, and I love this when we're taken back to the Shire, right? It's my favorite place. I love going back there. That the forest reminded him somehow of the old room in the great place of the Took, so way back in the Smails at Tuckborough.
Yeah.
A huge place where the furniture has never been moved or changed for generations. They say the old Took lived in it year after year while he and the room got older and shabbier together, and it was never been changed since he died a century ago.
Yeah.
So just that feeling of, and what Pippin is drawn it back to is the oldest place he knows.
Yeah,
the
exactly.
oldest place he knows is that room, and just the feeling of a place that is old. It's kind of stagnant in a way, and that's part of why the air is different in there. It's almost ancient.
That's a good. It's
ancient,
unmovable. It's
yes.
things that haven't moved.
Yes, right. Because and this forest is one of the we learned this chapter, right? That this is, or was it last chapter? One of those. It and the old forest are the two remnants from the forest that once covered all of Middle Earth.
Yep.
They are the two lone, and we talked about Fangorn's bigger than the old forest.
Yeah.
But they're the only surviving.
Well, right, and even in Elder Days, sort of like at the reshaping of this Middle Earth now, how the land has shifted and changed, and these are still places that have seen, that were around when that dark presence, that dark force was on the land. It
makes me think of those. What do we call them in the United States? There's a name for, like, there are some forests in the U.S. that they've never been cut.
Oh, really?
What is that called? There's a term for that. Anyway, they're very few and far between. A lot of the woods we have now is new growth. It's within 100 years because when you went through and you turned everything into fields for agriculture, you cut all the trees down. But there are some places where the forests have been untouched since the continent was formed, right? So I think about these places, how like if you and I walked into a woods like that, it would feel very different from going down to Clear Creek or Hocking Hills. It would feel ancient. It would feel like its own, almost more alive. That's how I envision Fangorn. It's breathing too, and that's why there's less in there, man.
Yeah, for sure. And they talk about how animals, basically, it's so thick, it's almost a place in which animals wouldn't.
They don't go.
He says this. You can't imagine animals living here at all.
Yeah,
or
which is weird for the woods. That's what you envision in the forest.
So it's strange that it would kind of. This is truly a place where, plants and trees and things grow and live. This is where they live.
Yeah. So cool, man.
Which is pretty neat. Now, on Pippin's comment there, what's the name of his great grandfather there? Old
Gerontius? I don't know.
Yeah.
I love that name, though.
I love that he says, and that puts it back a bit, it being like how far back he's thinking. But he says that this is nothing compared to the old feeling of this wood. Because when I first was reading this as a part of the reread, not back in the day, but I started to think about the wood that was maybe in the furniture that he was talking about. And I kind of wondered, was there something there, some connection or whatever.
That's interesting.
That maybe never got, teased out or whatever, but I just thought, you never know, So
I like that. I like, too, how he makes note of, he says, look at all those weeping, trailing beards and whiskers of lichen. And, there's another thing, too, right? To describe lichen and weeds and stuff, like a beard, indicates something that's old.
Yep.
Ancient. You think of old men with beards. You don't think of young men with beards until, like more recently or whatever. So that's kind of cool, too, just personifying. And also, thinking about these trees as, people in a way.
Well, that's one of the biggest things. When we get to Treebeard here, it's something that I noted was just how different his how he's described than what we saw in the films.
Yeah.
I really thought it was very, very different. Not very different, but like definitely enough to say, But
yeah, absolutely.
We'll get there real quickly. Yep. I want to make a comment about the sun. So it's very dim,
the light's weird in here.
And cloudy, but like, but the sun at any rate must peep in sometime, said Mary. So they're wondering, why it hasn't peeped in, if it ever does.
That's right. Yep.
And so eventually it gets to the point where it will peep in, and it makes things look a lot nicer, And actually, Pippin makes a comment that sort of keeps Treebeard from trampling him, like he's one of those little orcs,
Yeah.
So anyways, and Pippin says, so when they talk about the animals not living there, he also says, nor hobbits, and I don't like the thought of trying to get through it either. Nothing to eat for 100 miles, I should guess, and then he wants to know about their supply. And so they have a bit of lambus bread and are able to kind of continue.
but not much.
No.
There's not a whole lot
Broken,
left. So
yeah, fragments.
our hobbits are in dire straits here. They need help. They need someone to kind of give them a hand here. So yeah, yeah. In an unfamiliar place, not a lot of food. Just broken from their captivity.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep. And now is when those shafts of sunlight start to kind of come down. So just then, they became aware of a yellow light that had appeared some way further on into the wood. Shafts of sunlight seemed suddenly to have pierced the forest roof.
Yeah.
"Hello," said Mary. "The sun must have run into a cloud while we were under these trees, and now she has run out again, or else she has climbed high enough to look down through some opening. It isn't far. Let's go and investigate." And so I think that is sort of the thing, is that like it seems like the sun has to be at maybe its highest point to peer down into some of these places. Yeah, if it's coming in from the side, it's well shaded type of thing,
bunch
or
of lichen and moss and stuff for it to get through. Yeah,
could also be.
This is something totally unrelated. I also like how Mary calls the sun a she.
Yes.
I think it's the first time I've ever heard.
I thought that too, my friend.
We always think Mr. Sun, Mr. Golden Sun. You always think of the sun as a man for whatever reason. I like thinking about the sun as a she. I like that a lot. I think I'm gonna start using that.
Giving life.
So anyway,
So,
absolutely. Yeah, the new day is born.
But okay. So they let's see here. They start to make some more comment on
the land changed a little bit. It gets stonier, right?
Right. As
bluffs.
They're making their way towards that sunlight.
Yep.
And so up we go, said Mary, joyfully, now for a breath of air and a sight of the land.
Yeah.
So they climbed and they scrambled up the rocks, and the wind starts to change here, and it turned east again, and it kind of felt cool. So they're actually climbing. I think, aren't they kind of going up this hill?
That's the image I got. Yeah.
Right. Okay. So they're kind of moving up, and we'll talk about the hill later on, because it's something that's described by Treebeard. But Pippin says, "Yes, I'm afraid.
That's right,
I'm afraid this is only a passing gleam." So they talk about is this the sun part? Yeah, and it will go gray again. What a pity! This shaggy old forest looked so different in the sunlight. I almost felt I liked the place. Yeah, and that's where in the light he seems to kind of like it.
Which is interesting, because that's interesting too. Thinking about that, they could have PTSD from this type of forest. Last time they were in this type of forest, they were almost eaten by a tree.
That's true.
And now they're sitting in the same type of ancient wood, and they're going, I almost kind of like this place.
Right.
So there is something different about Fangorn, I think.
Well, and also to me, what I thought most of is like these areas
of these, just less scary than the orcs they were with.
Yeah. Well, the patches of sunlight.
Yeah.
Later on, Treebeard kind of talks about places in Fangorn that had
more light, more dark. Yes.
Yeah, more light and more dark. And so,
that's true. That's true.
And I think some of that has to do with Saruman walking around and learning its ins and outs.
How about that too, man?
Yeah. So
that's a little nugget I can't wait to talk about.
Yeah. So, and we'll compare it all back to the old forest as well. Yeah. So now enter Treebeard. Okay.
Yes.
So here we go. Our friend Treebeard is here, and he says, "Almost felt like almost felt like you liked the forest." He says, "That's good. That's uncommonly kind of you." And I think he means that, though. That's uncommonly kind of you.
Yep.
And because
everyone's afraid of Fangorn, aren't they?
They're told not to go into it. It's scary.
It's dangerous.
Right.
Yeah. Trees have a mind of their own there.
Right. Exactly. So he wants them to turn around and to look at him. So he grabs them by the shoulder, twists them around. There was no gently but irresistibly, so they were not able to resist. And these two great arms lift them up into the air. So, and I think this part is kind of neat. And I'm just going to
read the description. Right?
Yeah, read the description. Yeah. You go ahead.
Okay. They found that they were looking at a most extraordinary face. It belonged to a large man-like, almost troll-like figure, at least 14 foot high, very sturdy, with a tall head and hardly any neck. Whether it was clad in stuff like green and gray bark, or whether that was its hide, was difficult to say. At any rate, the arms, at a short distance from the trunk, were not wrinkled, but covered with a brown, smooth skin. The large feet had 7 toes each. The lower part of the long face was covered with a sweeping gray beard, bushy, almost twiggy at the roots. Thin, and mossy at the ends. But at the moment, the hobbits noted little but the eyes. And we talked about the importance of the eyes, man. That was most of our pre-recording conversation. These deep eyes were now surveying them, slow and solemn, but very penetrating. They were brown, shot with a green light. Often afterwards, Pippin tried to describe his first impressions of them. And here is actually this is a little time travel here. This is his description later on. So cool how Tolkien can just do whatever he wants.
Right.
One felt as if there was an enormous well behind them, filled up with ages of memory and long, slow, steady thinking, but their surface was sparkling with the present, like sun shimmering on the outer leaves of a vast tree or on the ripples of a very deep lake. Man, just think about that for a second. The imagery is perfect. I don't know, but it felt as if something that grew in the ground, asleep you might say, or just feeling itself as something between root tip and leaf tip, between deep earth and sky, had suddenly waked up and was considering you with the same slow care that it had given to its own inside affairs for endless years. Wow. Wow.
It actually made me think of like if Mother Nature were to just spring up, appear in some way,
and look right at you,
and consider you. You know, and
it'd be both a frightening,
it would be very
comforting thing.
Yeah, and part of why it would be frightening is because it's almost like you think back on how well have I taken care of,
sure,
or how good have I been,
sure,
to Mother Earth, because Treebeard says it's uncommon for a creature to make this type of comment. On his forest.
And I would feel, too, that something that ancient, I would think, how insignificant am I?
Right.
You know, and even as I'm sure the hobbits are feeling that way, too. We're just little tiny hobbits. This thing is clearly ancient. It's clearly a protector. Never seen anything like this guy.
Right.
Amazing.
Now, I said before, we were talking, before we started, that it made me think that, is this a giveaway that Pippin lives? That he reflects back on this? And then you said something very interesting to me. It's not that we don't know what condition he would be living in, though.
Sure.
Is he enslaved?
But you're right, though. It is a cool little tease ahead or a flash forward that Pippin will, does survive at least
to some degree.
Because
maybe he reflect on this. He was like reflecting on this before the end.
Yeah.
Or maybe it was after the series is over. You don't really know. So
it's cool, isn't it?
In the midst of the
really
writing
cool.
here, it says that he tried. Often afterwards, so that's all it says. Often afterwards, he tried to describe his first impression of them, the eyes that he was looking into. So I don't know.
And I think that's cool because even if Tolkien didn't know exactly where he was going, as a reader, you read that and you go, "This guy's got it all mapped out."
Oh, sure.
And that trust that you have built up with him already just deepens, and you're like, "Yep, this dude knows what he's doing."
Right. Well, I love that you said that. We still wouldn't even know what state Pippin would be in.
Sure. Yeah, it keeps us guessing, doesn't it?
It does.
Yeah. You're right. He could be enslaved, and this could be his best memory from what happened during this time. And he's, thinking for,
Yeah. So, let's see.
These cool sounds he makes. Hoom, hoom.
You have a pretty good Treebeard voice, don't you?
Very odd indeed. Do not be hasty. That is my motto.
Not really. No, I do like just every once in a while I'll impersonate Treebeard on my own. It's always better when the mic's not on.
Yeah,
but it's just fun. He's got and I love how John Rhys Davy did his voice. Just that. Did I just blow your mind? Did you not know that was him?
No, I did not.
That was him. Yes. So the way he.
I hear it now.
Yes, it was the way he would
now.
I loved how he would go out of breath.
Yes.
Almost like.
Yeah.
Just continuing on, and it sounds like a creaking tree. It sounds like the moaning of the forest. And then I think they took his voice recordings and they pumped it through, like wooden things. Mm-hmm. Like they had these tunnels with wooden. I don't even know what I'm trying to describe, but they somehow infused the sound of that, of wood with his voice.
That's amazing.
How cool is that?
It's awesome.
To give it that deeper, older
feel.
Yeah.
I did not know that. So
yeah,
that's
isn't that
actually
awesome?
Really cool.
Yeah.
And now that I'm hearing his voice in my head,
yes.
Treebeard's voice,
Yep.
I'm like, oh yeah, there it is. That's exactly.
My home lays at the roots.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Okay, so this voice, again, a deep voice, like the very deep woodwind instrument.
Yes.
Right. Very odd indeed. He says, "Do not be hasty. That is my motto. And so again, they're not a hasty people. But if I had seen you before I heard you, I liked them. Nice little voices. They reminded me of something. I cannot remember. If I had seen you before I heard you, I should have just trodden on you, taking you for little orcs, and found out my mistake afterwards. Very odd you are, indeed. Root and twig. Very odd.
How cool here that, like, you know, their voices have gotten them in trouble before. Right?
Yeah.
Them kind of being chatterboxes and loud, especially Pippin.
Right.
And here it ended up saving their lives.
Saves their lives. Yeah, that's a good point. That's a good point.
Yeah.
But what I like is that he says that their voices reminded him of something that he cannot remember.
Is that an Entwife? No, because he can remember the Entwives.
Well, I don't know.
I'm like, what does an Entwife sound like?
I don't know. I mean, again,
Higher-pitched?
it I don't know. I mean,
Did Treebeard give birth to the hobbits? I mean, what's going on,
well,
man?
here's the thing. Like, the hobbits like things that grow, you know, and
Yes.
and you know, they're kind of into, they love that, right? So I don't know. There's something, a connection there. What do you got?
I don't know. No, I'm just gonna get myself in trouble.
Say it. You're allowed to say crazy
I mean,
stuff.
when the hobbits wandered, you know, west,
Yeah.
they passed through the Brownlands. Was Treebeard with, you know, Fembrethil?
Yeah.
You see a little hobbit, chase
Maybe.
one off. I don't know.
Maybe he has come across it before, but
He has.
this is where he starts to talk about how they don't come up in the
They're not accounted for.
right
That's right.
in the old lists.
That's right. The old list.
The old list.
This is
They're
right
not
up
there.
your alley, dude. This is your kind of stuff.
Hey man, this is, you know, he
I love
knows
it.
the list and they're not there. So
Who wrote these lists?
yeah, right.
Probably Tom.
Yeah, somebody did. These were the lists that he was. Well, hold on a second. If he's the oldest and he's someone
Maybe he
who's,
wrote 'em.
you know what I mean? People listing off, you know, the different beings, creatures in Middle Earth. You know.
Yep.
So, all right. So, let's see.
He introduces himself too, right? We got to get to that there.
Yeah. Go for it.
He just says, you know, I'm an Ent. Yes, Ent is the word. The Ent. I am, you might say, in your manner of speaking. Fangorn is my name, according to some. Treebeard, others make it. Treebeard will do. An Ent, said Mary? What's that? But what do you call yourself? What's your real name? Who now? Replied Treebeard. Who? Now that would be telling. Not so hasty, and I am doing the asking. You are in my country. What are you, I wonder? And that's where he gets into them tying, you know, figuring out what.
Yeah, I can't place you.
What you are.
Right.
It was really cool. We talked about this before. So, you know, Treebeard, his real name is, well, not his real name, but Fangorn, according to some. You know, Fangorn is also his forest, his woods. Right?
Yes.
And we made the connection from, you know, might be too much Tom, guys, but we just love Tom. We're always looking for connections. And, the parallel, or the relationship of Fangorn Forest and the old forests, you got to bring it up. You got to talk about it because they're these two remnants. And so, you know, Fangorn is Treebeard. Fangorn is also the forest, so he and his forest are one. They share the same name. And you go to the old forest, which is where Tom is, and Tom is called the eldest.
Yeah.
Eldest, old forest. They share a name. They are one.
Right.
It's kind of interesting to think about. It's like you start to see the comparison between these two guardians and their woods. Pretty cool.
Yes, exactly.
So, but anyway, we get into this list. Do you want to read this list, or do we have time for that? I mean, we're getting kind of dug in here, man.
It's okay. We'll
the air is a little thin.
It is. We'll read the
Need a
list and
drink.
then we'll move on because
Okay.
there's so much to cover.
Yes.
So he kind of says, you know, learn now the lore of living creatures. First name the four, the free peoples. Eldest of all, the elf children. Dwarves the delver. Dark are their houses. Ent the earthborn. So this is where I got kind of confused. You know, is like first of the four. Is it just in the list? You know, the free peoples.
Good question.
Eldest of all, the elf children. Then he says, dwarf the delver. Dark are his houses. Ent the earthborn. Old as mountains. Okay. Man the mortal, master of horses. That's actually in the text, guys. Beaver the builder, Buck the leaper, Bear bee hunter, Boar the fight.
I love
Boar
this.
the fighter. Hound is hungry. Hare is fearful. Eagle is eagle is eyrie, oxen pasture, Harthorn crowned, hawk is swiftest, swan the whitest, serpent coldest. And he says, how did it go? Room tum, roomy, room tea, tomb tum. It was a long list. But anyways, you do not seem to fit in anywhere, right? Mm-hmm. And Pippin says, why not make a new list?
I love this, man.
You know, half-grown hobbits, the hole dwellers. And he loves it.
Love it.
Treebeard loves it as well. He says, not bad, not bad. That would do. So you live in holes, huh? It sounds very right and proper. Who calls you hobbits, though? Mm-hmm. That does not sound elvish to me. Elves made all the old words. They began it. Now, this is where I'm going to make a quick aside, okay? So as you look at this, I teach morphology, and I teach some of, like, you know, when we talk about the history of the English language, we talk about the influences of the Anglo-Saxons, Latin,
the
Greek.
Committee, right?
Yeah, all of it, right? The committee of influences. And to me, I almost thought, when I read this, Treebeard wants to know who called you that, who gave you that name, because there's a lot of it's kind of telling here in that, like, the name, is it something that you gave yourself?
Yeah, or was it given
to you, etc. And the
which
hobbits,
came first, the name or the being?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And the hobbits called themselves hobbits.
Yeah.
That's what it says. That's what Pippin says. We call ourselves that.
Yeah.
That's what we call ourselves.
Yeah.
And so it's very odd to me that no one really knows where these folk came from. And Gandalf often was, I think, a little dumbfounded. Right? So let's think about it for a second. Like, everyone knows about the elves. We know about the dwarves. Oh gosh, I just lost their name. The Bjornings, right? Mm-hmm. You've got all these different creatures that they seem to know about. Ents are known. You know, we know about them. Yeah. We don't know about hobbits. Yeah. I mean, the hobbits are in this whole little area, right? Yeah. And it's sort of like, you know, I mean, yeah, again, they're known in that the elves know they pass through their land, but, like, where did they come from? Yeah. They're not in the old lists. They're not in any of these old. So when did they emerge? Yeah. Where did they come from? Who sent them? How did they come to be? And I think Gandalf is mystified by that as well. And he goes and sort of, you know, tries to figure that out. That's why he spends a lot of time with them and realizes they have this sort of their own magic.
Yes, they do.
I would say.
Yes, they do.
So I think it's interesting. Now, back to the history of the English language. Like, oftentimes when you look at the names, you know, even the names of, like, men, Aragorn, Eomer, you know, you look at elves, you've got Arwen, Elrond. So whatever some of his sons' names, you know, they're Elros, elaborate.
Eladin.
There you go. They're complex.
Right here. Yeah. Yeah.
So, and then you look at, like, Bilbo, Frodo, you know. Now Peregrine and Meriadoc, you know, are a little bit what they are, but even their last names. So look at their surnames. They seem more Anglo-Saxon-y, like, you know, and something that's more of like a basic. It seemed like Tolkien was kind of like, when he looked at the language development, or he looked at, like, naming things, he took that into consideration, and he looked at, like, the ways in which, like, even developing orc names. You know what I mean? It's just really neat how they all kind of have their own style and theme. Does that make sense?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
I just kind of it resonated with me here because they're talking about their names and where they came from. Yeah. So I just wanted to mention it because I know he was a student of, you know, our language and really, you know, a linguist and things. And I know he had to have thought about that in naming these different, you know.
Well, yeah, and it's cool because usually, I mean, you associate a name as something that is given to you, right? You didn't choose your name. I didn't choose my name. It was given to me. And it's just cool that the hobbits are different. They're different in a lot of ways. Why wouldn't they be different in how they gotten their name? You know, they gave it to themselves. It's something they call themselves. And Tolkien was all about name comes first, and then the character is created from whatever name I choose. Yeah. You know, however I construct their name, that's going to tell who they are.
Right.
And, like, I mean, find another, other than, you know, mythology, which was based around a language that, you know, obviously had the same set of rules. Find another, like, mythology that was created like that,
Right, exactly.
It's crazy.
Well, here's something interesting.
Dude's a genius.
Talking more about names, Treebeard is kind of like cautioning them to not let out their own right names. He says to be careful about that. And Mary says, we aren't careful about that, And he goes on to say, as a matter of fact, I'm a brandy buck. And he goes on to tell him his name, and Pippin chimes right in, here's my name. And we learn that Treebeard's real actual name, either it was right before that or it was right after, is ever growing.
Yes.
It's always growing, and it's not something he's
Which is exactly like a tree.
ready to share. Yeah,
Always
exactly.
grows.
So it's just,
Yeah.
it's different, which is neat.
It's really cool.
And Treebeard says, but you are hasty folk. I see. So, but he's honored with their confidence, and so I think that's pretty neat. But okay, my friend, we are way bogged down. What else
I know,
we got
man.
here?
It's just so interesting.
It's very interesting. There's so many points here. He makes a comment here about Gandalf and Saruman and wanting to know sort of what's going on. I'm gonna kind of run us through some of this and get us to another one of our next bullet points.
I do have one little tidbit though, and this goes along with the future. It seems like his eyes change based on his mood or speech or content of his words. Did you catch that? How there's always we're always drawn back to Treebeard's eyes and how they change. They might brighten, they become more. I mean, it says here he's beginning to talk, and it says, and the eyes became very bright and quote unquote present. So like almost I don't know, like when you look into his eyes, and Pippin talked about that depth of time. Yeah, you can almost see, if he's retreating more into the past or if he is more present. Yeah, it's almost like the rings on a tree. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's so incredible to think if these silent giants around us, that see everything. Yeah, I think about the Giving Tree. Yeah, great children's book. If they could talk, what would they say? How long would it take them to talk? Mm-hmm. And he, this is a man who loved trees. He was obsessed with trees. He felt like, they weren't ever given enough respect or credit or reverence. Yep. And I'm sure that's why he portrayed the elves as being like super respectful to all of nature, but especially trees. Yep. It's just incredible. It's incredible how he was able to do that justice. Absolutely. Yeah. Well, you kind of mentioned one of the things is that his eyes are changing and the colors change. And I think of how the leaves on a tree change color, right? It's another thing too. Because they see this green flicker in his eye. Yep. I just looked at that. Yeah, exactly. And he was kind of, as he's talking, we saw like this deep yellow before. We see this green flicker, and then later on, we're going to see green and red sparks, kind of hitting the ground around him. Which is awesome. Cool. So, but just to kind of move us through here a little bit, so he's talking about which side he would be on. Yeah. And really he says, no side. Mm-hmm. No one really takes my side. Yeah. And so I'm not really interested in this side or that side, but there are sides that he is not like, or that he's, how does he put that? That he's against maybe or something. Yeah. And so like the orcs, right? And Sauron, right? And sort of his evil, and he's, and that he does thank the elves for curing their dumbness and then allowing them, teaching them to speak and things like that. And so he's thankful for that. But he kind of just talks about how he's not really on any one side. And bring up Master Gandalf, right? Yeah. Did you know who he was? And Merry and Pippin talk about the fact that he was their friend and their guide. Yeah. And that sort of gives Treebeard this reassurance to say, okay, I can talk to you folks now. But it says he's the only wizard that really cared about the trees. That's right. The only. Which is interesting because you think about Radagast, and you kind of envision Radagast as this. He's kind of more of the hippie, right? He's always with animals. But you think, it is, animals. Animals are different from trees. Yes. Like in terms of like how mankind thinks of them, right? We put them in different categories. Yep. And it's maybe Gandalf and Treebeard and Tolkien were on something different. They're not so different as we think. We can assign Phil this task because Phil's all over this stuff. He's our historical expert. But if you go back and look, and I just haven't had the time, and it's been a long time since I looked it up, but like if you go back to look at the Astari and you look at who they were close to,
some of the Valar and some of the other Maiar and some.
Oh my gosh! Yeah, that makes sense.
It actually shows you a relationship as to why Gandalf was who he was and Radagast is who he is, because those were the different, Valar that were in charge of different things or sung
like
some
the
of
gods.
that into into being. So we'll have to look into it more and.
Wow, that's so interesting.
We'll get some other folks to help us out on it because it's a lot of digging and research. But okay, let's see. So yeah, they're talking about sides, and they actually mentioned this whole bit about Gandalf in past tense, and how maybe he's fallen and things, and so actually I think Treebeard gets them to kind of read to detail everything. He says, where is it at here? There's a good part where he talks about how he knows everything is like something's going on. Here's what he knows. He sees that Gandalf, that the nine were out and riding, and that obviously, and that Gandalf sets out, with these hobbits and stuff. You know what I'm saying? Like he details.
It's like I mean they talk about Gandalf saying he's fallen out of the story, and Treebeard just doesn't know what to say.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, I don't know what to say, and then they kind of move on from that.
Yeah. And then they after that, real quickly, they start to describe where they're at.
Yes.
So you can see,
and just the difference in words.
Yeah, Treebeard's trying to put things into their words.
Yeah.
Very courteous.
Yeah.
And trying to, what would you call this place? And they're like
so
a hill.
Funny. Because they're both speaking. It's funny because they're both speaking the common tongue, right?
Yes.
But yeah, Treebeard's trying to translate Entish into English. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Gosh, so cool.
Right. And they talk about sitting down together, and Treebeard's really not into sitting.
Yeah.
He'll lay down or he'll stand, type of thing. So we learn more about him there. But they decide, let's see here. Well, you see, we have lost all of our belongings, and they have little food. So they want to talk more, and they kind of decide that they need to move on. Treebeard then is going to kind of take them back to their house. Right, and his homes, back to one of his homes, and get them a drink. Right, he gives them, he says, "I can give you a drink that will keep you green and growing for a long, long while."
Cool,
which is cool. And if we decide to part company, I can set you down outside of my country at any point you choose. Let's go. So, holding the hobbits gently but firmly, one in each crook of his arm, Treebeard lifted up first one large foot and then another, and moved them into. To the edge of the shelf, and it's just cool because it's got like the root-like toes grasping the rocks, and then carefully, solemnly, he stalked down from step to step and reached the floor of the forest.
Is he the most courteous stranger we've run into so far?
Yeah, I mean,
just that offer. I'll take you home. I'll give you a good drink. That'll help you grow forever. And if you need to leave Fangorn, I'll put you down in any direction you want.
Right, and it's not that Tom wasn't courteous. It's just that he's got other things on his mind.
Yeah, sure. Yeah,
whereas Treebeard kind of says
that's the natural second, though, isn't it? It's Tom Bombadil.
Yeah.
You think about Elrond. Yeah, So yeah, but he's just I don't know. I had under that paragraph, I love Treebeard. Mm-hmm. Like he's just someone you trust and you just fall in love with.
Right.
Incredible.
It's interesting that you say trust because Merry and Pippin kind of say, "Please, Treebeard, could I ask you something? Why did Celeborn warn us against your forest? Yeah. He told us not to risk getting entangled in it."
Yeah.
Did he now? Rumbled Treebeard. And I might have said much the same if you had been going the other way. Do not risk getting entangled in the woods of Lorelindorian. Right?
Nice, dude. Yeah.
Right? And then, which has been shortened down to Lothlorien.
Yeah.
So, and why is that, Lane? I mean, what do you think, man? Perhaps, they're right. Maybe it is fading. He says, he talks about why would they shorten the name? It's not growing.
Yeah.
Land of the Valley of, he calls it the Land of the Valley of Singing Gold. That was it. Once upon a time. Now it is the Dream Flower, which is neat. Just in the way he's kind of changed what he thinks there.
So but it's interesting. He himself is kind of talking like a hobbit. Says it's a queer place, not for just anyone to venture in. I'm surprised that you ever got out. I don't know. That's interesting, man.
Mm-hmm.
But much more surprised that you ever got in. That has not happened to strangers for many a year. It is a queer land.
Yeah, and
Man.
it's crazy because he goes on to kind of talk. There's actually, one of the appendices here talks more about Ents, and it talks more about this relationship to Celeborn and what's going on there. I just noticed that in my book.
Huh.
So it's yeah. So we'll have to go look at that.
That's
here
something I didn't really have
afterwards.
time to reflect on. Yeah, we'll have to do that.
Yep. But anyway, so there's that. So they both were kind of warned and warning each other of one another. And I think, again, he's a kind of a tree herder, and yet the forest of Lothlorien is closed off.
Yeah.
It's difficult to even get in.
And it's kind of like the elves, too.
Yeah.
I mean, the elves are like that. They've withdrawn themselves. They don't allow people in. So is he saying the actual forest itself is the same way?
Yeah. Seems like it.
Man.
Which he talks about trees as being his friends,
Yes.
and
right, that's right.
Yeah, like losing some of them turning dark.
Yeah.
And I thought of Old Man Willow,
Yes.
and
Yes.
things.
And this is where we get kind of that history of the Ents.
Yeah.
He goes into this history and oh my gosh, it's trying to think where to start here.
Yeah, he says, the trees and the Ents, said Treebeard, I do not understand all that goes on myself, so I cannot explain it to you.
Yeah.
Some of us are still true Ents and lively enough in our fashion, but many are growing sleepy, going tree-ish, as you might say. Most of the trees are just trees, of course, but many are half awake. Some are quite wide awake, and a few are, getting Entish. That is going on all the time. I would love for someone else to break this down more, because if you look at this, the trees
And that's
the
when their
Ents,
hearts are revealed. Do you see that next line? That's where their hearts are revealed. Some have bad, nothing to do with their wood. I don't know. Don't mean it that way. It's just who they are.
Oh yeah. So when that happens to a tree, so as he says here, that some are getting Entish. So when they start to wake up, you find that some have bad hearts.
Yep.
Nothing to do with their wood. I do not mean that. Why, I knew some good old willows down at the Entwash, gone long ago, alas, but were quite hollow. Indeed, they were falling all to pieces, but as quiet and sweet-spoken as a young leaf. And then there are some trees in the valley under the mountains, sound as a bell, bad right through. Yeah, that sort of thing seems to spread.
Isn't it interesting, too? Because Tolkien, like the way he's personifying these trees, I don't walk by a tree and think, it's a bad one. I like that tree. That one's got a good heart. Like, that's just fascinating to think about.
It is.
If they're just as diverse as people and animals, then why that would be the next step you take, is that some are good, some are bad. Some do good things, some do bad things.
Right,
Man,
exactly.
Crazy, isn't it?
Well, what I couldn't get over is the relationship between the trees and the Ents.
Yeah.
So, it's just, let me go back here just a little bit. So, because they're kind of talking about, this is hard to follow.
Well, and he says he can't even explain himself.
He can't. I know, that's what's
says.
confusing
he says,
me.
We are tree herds, we old Ents. Few enough of us are left now. Sheep get like shepherds, and shepherds like sheep, it is said.
Yeah.
But slowly, and neither have long in the world.
So what is he saying?
The line is very thin. I think what it's saying is an Ent can go to sleep all the way and become a tree.
Yeah. And
a
tree
could
can
wake up and become an Ent.
Become an Ent, yeah.
I might be wrong on that, and that's okay.
That's what I kind of felt
Hobbit.
like.
Right.
That's because it says, as you said, so I cannot explain it.
But something powerful has to, there has to be. You're right.
But
You're
some
on
of us are
something too.
true Ents.
Right.
Yeah. And lively enough.
Okay. Yeah. So were the true Ents, were they touched by Treebeard or the eldest of the elves, or?
Well, again, the elves used to speak to the trees, right? And kind of taught them to speak, and so some of them, gave them that language, right?
I love it, dude.
So there's that.
I like the mystery of it. I have no.
Me too. I love
no
the fact that you've got the true Ents, and then lively in our own fashion, but many are growing sleepy, going tree-ish, as you might say. Most of the trees are just trees. So most of them are just trees.
Is this also like a commentary on age too? Like, if you don't stay engaged, and if you don't keep yourself in tune with your world, the older you get, the more sleepy you get, the less engaged you get.
Yeah.
To remain, an active part of society, you have to. It's an intentional thing. Like you have to exercise that.
Maybe.
I don't know. I mean, I think about that. Like that is my one fear as I get older. If I become more withdrawn and more out of. What's going on? You feel a root?
Yeah, I'm good. Yeah,
is that a root?
Something's growing over there. Something's wrapping around my leg.
It wasn't me, bud.
Just a cord, I guess.
You know what I mean? I don't know. Maybe not. But I just think,
No, I know what you're saying.
An age type thing. I don't know. Maybe.
Let me take this back just a second because I really want to understand
Take it back, baby. Come on.
We're
not going to understand it.
What it seems like when I think of Old Man Willow, when I think of this.
Yeah.
And some of these trees, as they grow and they become wide awake, they're ent-ish. So ish meaning like they're like, or pertaining to an ent.
They can act out more, maybe.
Right, exactly. But they're still trees.
Yeah, they're not ents.
They're not true ents.
Sure.
And then you also have ents that are becoming tree-ish.
There you go. There you go.
They're becoming tree-ish.
They're not trees.
They're
but
not
they act more like
exactly.
trees. They get more sleepy. That's why some of them don't come to Entmoot, right?
Right, exactly.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
They're not tree. Yeah, good point. Yeah.
So there's that.
Perfect.
That's just to kind of...
Mystery solved, mate.
Okay.
But the process and how that happens is kind of unknown.
You're right. Yeah. That all still a little bit,
Even Treebeard don't know, y'all.
Yeah. So now they bring up like the old forest. So and it says, so he goes on to say here as he's talking about the different patches and the hearts of the trees.
Yeah.
That sort of thing seems to spread. There used to be some very dangerous parts in this country. There are still some very black patches. And Mary says, or he asks, like the old forest away to the north, do you mean? And he, Treebeard says, yes, something like that, but much worse. I do not doubt there is some shadow of the great darkness lying there still away north, and bad memories are handed down. I think that's kind of crazy.
Yeah.
That he's talking about the old forest like that, and that it's something, he's saying, yes, very much like that, only much worse.
Yeah.
Talking about these patches that are in his forest,
Yeah.
But he says up there to the north, there is some shadow of the great darkness that's still lying there, and these bad memories have been passed down. So it makes you re-look at Tom a little bit. It makes you re-look at that forest, which I think is crazy. And we said, too, it's not just that the hobbits call it the Old Forest. I mean, they do. But I think it's kind of called the Old Forest by other folk.
It is.
Yeah,
So, right, yeah.
Even like if he's not corrected here, it's not really given any specific name. It's just when they say the Old Forest, he knows that's the forest they're talking
they've
about.
had to translate a lot of other things.
Yeah.
Right, but not the Old Forest.
Yep.
Yeah.
So, anyways, right.
Just cool. There's a lot of stuff here.
There's a lot of stuff here, so I do. We got to stick here
cool.
for a second because he talks about
the elves waking them up and teaching them to speak.
There you go.
They always wished to talk to everything the old elves did, but then the great darkness came and they passed away over the sea or fled into far valleys and hid themselves and made songs about days that would never come again, never again. There was all one wood once upon a time, from here to the mountains of Loon, and this was just the East End.
Yeah.
Those were the broad days.
Yep.
Man. And so maybe some of that, too, is when he's talking about Lothlorien. The woods were like the woods of Lothlorien, only thicker, stronger, younger, and the smell of the air. I used to spend a week just breathing.
Yeah. Yes, sir. So he goes on. We're going to skip through some of that, I think, because it's just sort of him talking about where in which he would kind of stride and the areas that he would go to. And
I do want to say something, though.
Yeah.
Like, and Peter Jackson would say this sometimes, and like he would say that people would say that Treebeard is boring. I don't think Treebeard's boring at all. I get maybe like listening to him speak, it would take a long time to listen to him because he speaks slowly. At least that's the interpretation we have. But nothing he's saying is boring me. It gets me like,
no, it gets you thinking more about like the development of this world.
Yeah.
And its story and its history.
Yeah, and even just his perspective. I used to spend a week breathing, talking about becoming more entish or more tree-ish. Just like he is, I think he's so fascinating. And I don't know if the movies really do him justice, man. If I can be honest, I think he is such a deeper, more inspiring and intriguing character in the book than he is in the movie. I still love him in the movie. That's fine, but I don't think they hit it out of the park with him.
Yeah. Nope.
Because he comes off as just like the hobbits are yawning. They're not doing that here.
No,
they're very engaged.
Exactly. That's a good point.
They're talking to him. They're not like, oh,
They're
Treebeard,
interested.
shut up. Let's just go to mess with Isengard.
Right.
No, they're not even thinking that. And we get into it and at Entmoot, and Treebeard doesn't need their encouragement.
Yeah.
He doesn't need the hobbits to go, come on, you're part of this world, aren't you?
No, exactly.
He doesn't need that. He knows the treachery of Saruman.
That's right.
He knows what Saruman's been doing, and he's ready to go fight. Like, he just has to talk the other Ents into it. Anyway, so I don't know. I want to make sure I said that and didn't forget. I like this Treebeard of the books.
I do too.
I think he's an incredible character.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
100% agree with you.
Yeah.
All right, we're going to move on to his house, though. I think we're going to move into
good Welling Hall.
Into Welling Hall and where he's at. So we have a great picture. Hopefully we can post this in the group just of his, his dwelling. I think it's much better done here in this illustration that we have. It's almost like not in a cave, but it's almost like you imagine a kind of a rocky, what do they call it? Like a slope or like this cliff that's this overhang of rock.
Yeah, there you go.
And he's living kind of underneath it, which is just neat. So he's there. He had taken them about 70,000 Ent strides, which he didn't know, what the measurement was there in their terms. But so the hobbits noticed that as they walked, his knees hardly bent, his legs opened in great strides. He planted his big toes, and they were indeed big and very broad, on the ground first before any other part of his feet. So
just the description too, and his movements and everything. Tolkien took so much care in like painting that picture for us. Counting the number of toes on his feet and at the very his first our first introduction to him and how many fingers he had. It's just cool how intentional he was of describing all that stuff about how he would look, how he moves.
Yeah, absolutely. I have a question here for you because I think we have a different soundscape coming up, and I'm going to read
we do.
One here. So basically, for the moment, Treebeard stood under the rain of the falling spring and took a deep breath. Then he laughed and passed inside. A great stone table stood there, but no chairs. At the back of the bay, it was already quite dark. Treebeard lifted 2 great vessels and stood them on the table. They seemed to be filled with water, but he held his hands over them, and immediately they began to glow. What? How did I miss that? Hold on a second.
Yeah.
So they immediately begin to glow?
Yeah.
Hold on. Golden, and the other a rich green light, and the blending of the 2 lights lit the bay, as if the sun of summer was shining through a roof of young leaves.
It's magic, dude.
What is that? Stop me in my tracks.
Ent magic.
What is going on?
What's that glow in his eyes? I don't know.
Hold on. So they seem to be filled with water.
It's sap. He's pouring sap into them.
Is that what he's doing?
I don't know. I have no idea.
They seem to be, but it says they seem to be filled with water.
Yep.
But he held his hands over them, and immediately they begin to glow.
Yeah.
One was glowing with a golden light, and the other a rich green light. And the blending of the 2 lit the bay. So that's really neat. But one of the things I wanted to bring up here is it says that he stood under the rain of the falling spring. Is it springtime? They mentioned that it's that the trees look like they were waiting for spring.
Or is it like a spring as in from the earth?
Of the falling spring. Okay, thank you. Because I was totally, I was like, that's not the right time. I was like, he wouldn't make an error like that, would he? Okay.
But it is turning into spring though.
Yeah.
It's the end of winter.
Right. So I just was kind of, you see, I was confused. Okay.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So he stood under the rain, falling spring. Okay, got it. So, anyways, all right. So I think it's neat that he kind of lights those
now
things.
Now you got me questioning myself, dude.
Well, hey, we'll look it up later.
Drink this draft, my friend.
Yeah, he has them. Well, you talked about the different drafts that they've drank along the way.
Yeah, they've got a cool what do you call it? Like a brew trail of Middle Earth.
Yeah, they've
had the elven liquor.
Yep.
Right, that warmed them. They've unfortunately had the orc draft.
Right.
They've had now the Ent draft.
Yep.
What else have they drank?
I feel like there has been more.
They had some good beer and brie.
They had a couple drafts of from different sets of elves.
Yeah.
You know, so
yeah, that's true. That's
Gandalf
true.
gave them a bit, and then also Gildor gave them a bit.
Gildor
back
gave
in the
them
day.
some, and then in House of Elrond they had another. Yeah,
but yeah, you're right. They're getting the draft.
Yeah, they are.
Okay, so here we go. So let's talk about his house a little bit here, and like he has this table. He's got all this stuff going on. It seems really cool. Looking back, the Hobbit saw that the trees in the court had also begun to glow faintly at first, but steadily quickening until every leaf was edged with light. Say what? You know what I'm saying? Like,
is that like the drink's effect on them?
Did we not read this before? Like, what's happening? Some green, some gold, some red as copper, while the tree trunks looked like pillars. What's that say? Pillars molded out of luminous stone. Right. So
I'm trying to catch up.
Yeah, I don't know. So, anyways, I just think it's really interesting that there's all this glowing going on. All this. Yeah. Like the edge of the leaves are. He's got lights, man. He's got electricity.
He's got lights, man. This place is lit.
It's lit, man. Well, now we can talk. He says, "You are thirsty, I expect. Perhaps you are also tired. Drink this." He went back to the back of the bay, and they saw several tall stone jars stood there with heavy lids. He removed one of the lids and dipped in a great ladle. Young ladle. All right, guys, we're back to tapestries and tapestries. I don't know why I can't even say the word mispronunciations kill me.
Funny.
And with that, he filled 3 bowls, one very large and 2 smaller ones. Which what I thought was crazy about this is that when you think of him in the films, those hands, I don't see them being able the dexterity. I don't know that it's there to do something like this. And so when I think of Treebeard now, I think of him very differently.
Yes.
You know, and he's in this little house that he has. He's still 14, 16 foot tall?
Yeah.
Something like that.
Sasquatch height.
Yeah. And so he's taking these jars off, he's ladling out.
His fingertips must be real, like thin green wood to be able to, bend around a little tiny cup like that. Right. Well, I guess for them it would be decent size. Yeah.
So as he says, he fears that there's no seats. They have this big table. He picks the
puts them right on top.
Yeah, it can sit on the table. The drink was like water. Indeed, very like the taste of the drafts that they had from the Entwash near the borders of the forest. And yet there was some scent or savor in it, which they could not describe. It was faint, but it reminded them of the smell of a distant wood borne from afar by a cool breeze at night.
What?
So a distant wood. Crazy. So they got this sense.
And the taste reminds them of a smell.
Of a wood that was like carried through the wind.
But I know what they're talking about at the same time,
too.
man.
I know.
That spring smell. And we're going to go out here and take a walk, and we're going to smell the same thing, bro.
I know we are. I know.
And we're going to taste it in the back of our throats.
It's great.
Like a beer.
That's right. But anyways, they could feel this drink in their toes. It's growing. Their hair is standing up and almost felt like it was growing as well.
Yep.
And, I love that this...
Nectar.
This nectar. It is, right? Mm-hmm. It's like this description of Treebeard. He takes his bowl and just knocks it out in one big, draft. He just, boom, puts it back.
I think it's so funny, too. He's talking about them sitting on the floor, and then he'll lie down.
Yeah.
Like he'll lie down to talk, but not to sleep.
Right. Exactly.
Isn't that funny?
It is, yeah. It is. Man, I'm just thinking of...
that's what he said. Oh, my gosh, I'm such an idiot. You can sit on the floor, and I will lie down. That will prevent this drink from rising to my head and sending me to sleep.
Yeah, that's right. Yep.
Which makes sense. Trees, they use their roots to draw moisture up to the top.
Right, so if he lays down, he'll be
fine.
So this is neat. So Treebeard says, "Now tell me your tale, and do not hurry." So this is where they kind of talk about their story. It says they said nothing about the ring. They did not tell him why they had set out or where they were going. Sure. Yeah. He immediately noted that and kind of said that that's how Gandalf would have wanted it. You can tell they didn't tell the whole story, but he understands. And so... Let's see here. So he was immensely interested in everything in the from the Black Riders, Elrond, Rivendell, the Old Forest, Tom Bombadil, the Mines of Moria, Lothlorien, Galadriel. He made them describe the Shire and its country over and over again.
Awesome?
It brings a smile. Can you imagine hearing about this land? And this is Treebeard.
I mean,
right?
Isn't this us?
We wanted to stay there for how long?
Stay there. I want to go back now.
I do too.
Forget this. Let's go back to chapter 1.
mean, not
the
that-
long expected party.
You started. There's a dreary kind of like almost call it like Portland-like weather, like feel in this Fangorn forest,
Yeah.
and I kind of like that. Some people like that type of weather, and I do on certain days like it. But nothing really beats the Shire.
No.
And so when you talk about which land is fair, and going to a fair land, and you have a song, we have the Entwives song coming up. It's something. So he wanted to hear about it over and over again, and he said,
That's where he asks.
he said an odd thing at this point. You never see any, Any Ents around there, do you? He asked. Well, not Ents. Entwives, I should really say. And Pippin says, Entwives. Are they like you at all? And he says, yes. Well, no. I don't really know now, which is interesting. So yeah.
So they would like your country, so I just wondered.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They would like your country, so I just wondered. Oh, stop.
That crazy?
Stop.
But there's the
Like,
other thing, too. We don't really know what they look like.
But
He doesn't know. He can't remember.
But can I tell you, man, like, just for a second, put yourself in Treebeard's position.
I don't know if I can.
I know you
Okay,
can.
let me lay down.
That was pretty corny.
Lame. It was lame.
Yeah, it's fine. But
I'm a dad now.
think about the idea that, like, he would wonder this whole time about where the Entwives are at.
Yeah.
And then in listening to this story,
Yeah.
the one thing that stands out to you, so you can tell underneath everything, there's this, it's always on their mind, I guess is what I'm saying.
Look at the next picture.
Yeah, exactly. Yes, I know. Yeah, so we've got this, him there kind of considering, right? Is that what you're talking about? Oh my gosh, that one. What's wrong with you? What is wrong with you?
What's on his mind?
It's always on his mind, yeah. The Entwives, right? Elaine has an inappropriate picture.
Hey, it's just nature,
a tree.
man.
It's just a tree that looks like,
It's just nature, bro.
some good stuff. So he's got his eyes on her, doesn't he? Wow. But anyways, guys, all right. So that stood out. And Pippin wants to know, like, did you lose them? Like
Yeah,
how did
what
you
happened
like
to 'em?
how did they all die? Is what he
Yeah.
says, because he said, Treebeard says that they lost them, and that there hadn't been any Entlings running around, right?
Yeah.
So, and that's why there's not many of them. So, I don't know. It's just interesting to me, I guess. So, now let's see. Here we go. There's so much important stuff here. It's just
I know,
crazy.
That's part of the problem.
how-
Talks about being, they say that anytime they talked about Gandalf, that he was particularly interested in everything that concerned him, and in all of Saruman's doings. They didn't know, the hobbits were sorry they didn't know much about what he was doing.
Yeah.
Just rather vague reports that they had gotten from the council. But they did communicate that Ugluk, and his troop came from Isengard.
Yes.
And
Yep.
this troubles Treebeard.
Yeah.
Bundle of this is a bundle of news and no mistake. You have not told me all. Indeed, that's where you say, this is what Gandalf would have wanted. Goes on to know that we go on to hear that he had heard about the 9 forgotten riders reappearing to hunt them, and Gandalf taking them on a great journey, and Galadriel harboring them in Karis Galadon, right?
Yep. He's talking
saying,
about
I hope they-
what he's doing is he's commentating on the hobbits and the pickle that they're in.
Yeah.
He's kind of saying, and at the end he says, I hope they weather it.
Yeah.
Kind of thing. This whole, business.
Yeah, so it's kind of like he's almost got this like kind of outsider's view in a way,
right.
Right.
So he makes a little comment here about wizards and how wizards are more concerned with elves and men, and so he typically doesn't, he doesn't get into their affairs much. But I'm not altogether on anybody's side. So we talked about this as to which side he's on. He says still that he's more kindly to elves than any others because the elves had cured us of dumbness long ago. That was a great gift that cannot be forgotten, though our ways have parted since. And there are some things, of course, whose side I'm altogether not on. That's where he's talking about the orcs and so
Yeah.
on. So as we mentioned that at the start. But he says, but now
And then,
Saruman.
Yes, this stuff is fascinating to me. Because essentially what he, and I can't abbreviate much, but I can pretty much abbreviate this. Essentially what he says is, Saruman used to come walk in my woods and talk to me. And, he was polite. He always asked my leave and was eager to listen. But what I found out was I was the one doing all the talking.
Yeah.
And he didn't repay in the same kind.
Yep.
And pretty much this is Treebeard.
Have you ever been in that situation?
Absolutely, man.
Yeah, I know
I
you
feel like
have.
on a daily basis.
That's crazy.
But what we're seeing is Treebeard kind of piecing it together right in front of these two hobbits that,
Yep.
What Saruman was doing was he was infiltrating Treebeard's knowledge of Fangorn so that it could be used for his own purposes.
Yep.
And so that is the treachery of Saruman, how he is a traitor to Treebeard.
Yeah.
And Fangorn ultimately. And it's just he's kind of coming to realization of this right in front of them.
Yeah, and he says, he goes on to say, curse him root and branch.
Yeah.
Gosh, I love his little saying, root
know.
and branch. And,
Yeah.
what does he say, twig and leaf. And,
Yeah.
But he says, I've been idle.
Yeah.
I've let things slip. I must stop. So,
Being too
he
tree-ish.
himself, he's kind of being, too tree-ish, right? Yeah. And that he knew a lot of these trees that had been cut down. He knew them
Yeah.
from nut and acorn.
Yeah.
And many of their voices, many of them had
Lost
voices.
forever.
Yeah, they had voices of their own that are lost.
Started crying when I read that, man.
Dude, I know.
Lost forever.
I know. It's something. So anyways, he raised himself up from his bed with a jerk. He stood up, right? And he thumped with his hand on the table. The vessels of light trembled and sent two jets of
They don't like
flame.
getting roused, man.
Well, so hold on.
They don't like being roused.
The vessels of light trembled and sent up two jets of flame. What the heck?
I don't know, man. There's something. I don't know.
There's something on. Can you imagine this on the big screen? Could you imagine an extended edition that had
I'm telling you, they missed the mark,
They
bud.
had this,
they
like-
missed the mark.
the leaves are growing and he's set the lights in motion here?
I
And
just found an illustration of it for you.
did you really?
Check it out there.
Okay, I'm watching here on the dock. So yeah, but he keeps kind of going on and he's talking about, oh my goodness gracious. Yeah, that's exactly. So we have
Yeah.
another great picture of the two lamps that he lit here, and actually his dwelling almost looks like it's just trees itself, right, wrapped around. He's got all these different. Yeah, that's really cool. We'll have to share that on the group. Get a different, image there for his house.
Absolutely.
So, anyways, he comes to the point where he says that he has to do something. He says, "I will stop it, and you shall come with me. You may not be able to help me." Well, it says, you will be helping your own friends that way too. Or he says, "You may be able to help me." Sorry, yeah. For if Saruman is not checked, Rohan and Gondor will have an enemy behind them as well as in front of them. Our roads go together to Isengard. Do your Treebeard, do your Treebeard voice to Isengard. How do you do
I can't do
that?
it now. I can't do it.
To Isengard.
That's it, man. That's it. See what I'm saying, though? He doesn't need any help.
Right.
He doesn't need any help. Like, he's putting it together in his mind. He understands what's happened, and his own shortcomings, too. I just think, I don't know, it cheapens him when it's
Yeah.
how the film does it. I don't know.
Okay, so we are going to skip ahead
like
here a little
this.
bit here because
Yeah.
we've he decides to
Entmoot, the end.
yeah, exactly. So but he decides it's time to go. And he
Yep.
says, "I spoke hastily though, let's sleep on this," and what have you.
Yep.
So he's kind of no, wait a second, actually. I don't want to skip too far ahead here,
Starts to put together the different Ents he's going to call to Entmoot, though, right?
he starts ticking them off. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's right.
Starts counting off their names. Finglas, Fladrif. Talks about only 3 remaining from the eldest of Ents.
Yes.
But then that's Leaflock and Skinbark.
Yeah.
Those two, their names that their other names.
Mm-hmm.
But he says Leaflock has grown sleepy.
Well, as he's talking about their number, he talks about why there are so few.
That's right.
And so I think that's where we're going to get into him talking about the Entwives.
Entwives, yeah.
And really
They
what
didn't die.
happened.
Yeah.
And he says it's a rather strange and sad story, and he kind of goes on after this pause. And I can only imagine this pause where he's thinking about the Entwives and that time long ago, and it saddens him, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And he says there were even Ent maidens then, he says, right?
Yep.
He's like talking about the love. How do you say his
Fembrethil? Is that right?
Fembrethil. Fembrethil. Thank you. So, okay, yeah. Of what? Of Wandlim. Of Wandlim?
The light-footed.
Wow.
In the days of our youth.
Oh my gosh, that's cool.
Yeah.
That's so cool.
They walked together and they housed together.
Yeah, so anyways, the Entwives ordered them to grow according to their wishes.
Their hearts grew apart, though, man.
Is it? Yeah. Right.
The Ents gave their love to things that they met in the world, and the Entwives gave their thought to other things. For the Ents loved the great trees and the wild woods and the slopes of the high hills, and they drank of the mountain streams, and ate only such fruit as the trees let fall on their path. And they learned of the elves and spoke with the trees. But the Entwives gave their minds to the lesser trees, and to the meads in the sunshine beyond the feet of the forests. And they saw the sloe in the thicket, and the wild apple and the cherry blossom in the spring, and the green herbs in the waterlands in summer, and the seeding grasses in the autumn fields. They did not desire to speak with these things, but they wished them to hear and obey what was said to them. The Entwives ordered them to grow according to their wishes and bear leaf and fruit to their liking, for the Entwives desired order and plenty and peace, by which they meant that things should remain where they had set them. So the Entwives made gardens to live in, but we Ents went on wandering, and we only came to the gardens now and again.
Wow.
Interesting, huh?
It is actually really interesting. I love to see somebody make like a breakdown and just like what that is. I don't know. Go into more detail, I guess, is the best way to say it.
Yeah.
So, but then the darkness came.
It's the best way to say it.
Yeah, I don't know. So the darkness came and it overthrown the lands of the Entwives. Their fields were kind of.
We learn what happens to them, right?
Right. Yeah. So they're now called the Brown Lands.
Yeah.
Right.
Yes.
Which is interesting.
Wasn't it Sauron who went in there and kind of made a mess? Is that right?
Yeah. Long ago, in the time of the war, in the time of the war between Sauron and the Men of the Sea.
Yeah.
Wow, he had that desire to go see her. Mm-hmm. Right. Wow. Very fair she was in my eyes when I had last seen her, though little like the Ent maid of old. For the Entwives were bent and browned by their labor, their hair parched, by the sun, to a hue of ripe corn, and their cheeks like red apples. Yet their eyes, still the eyes of our own people. We crossed over Anduin and came to the land, but we found a desert. It was all burned and uprooted, for war had passed over it. So, and then this is where some people said the Entwives went north. Some said they went south. Some said they went west and east, and so on. In all different directions, and they set out to search, and they tried to find them, and they couldn't find them.
Yeah. And there is that one theory, I can't remember who posted it, forgive me, in the group a long time ago, and it was about the possibility that they may have even been taken by Sauron.
Yeah.
And turned into some device for his doing. I don't know what that. Right. I think the post had something to do with them being turned into some like troll-like figures, right? That were used for war. They were tortured and then used in battle. But yeah, we don't know.
It's just sad
what happened to them. Yeah, it is.
So, but they start to talk about there's a song, and Treebeard's mystified that the hobbits don't know the song of the Entwives.
Yeah,
that most folk know about it.
Yeah,
and that the elves sort of made this song, and it was from time to time they would hum it, and it's something that they would think about. It's always in their mind. They're humming it. They're singing it and stuff. So we want to play a little bit of that for you guys. So I think this is from who sent us this again? This is Rael.
Yeah.
So all right. So take a listen here. This is Rael singing the Entwives song.
Spring unfolds the beechen leaf, and sap is on the bough. When light is on the wildwood stream, and wind is on the brow. When stride is long, and breath is deep and keen the mountain air. Come back to me, come back to me, and say my land is fair. When spring is come to garth and field, and corn is in the blade, when blossom like a shining snow is on the orchard laid, when showering sun upon the earth with fragrance fill the air, I linger here and will not come, because my land is fair. When summer lies upon the world, and in a noon of gold, beneath the roof of sleeping leaves, the dreams of trees unfold. When woodland halls are green and cool, and wind is in the west, come back to me, come back to me, and say my land is best. When summer warms the hanging fruit and burns the berry brown, when straw is gold and ear is white, and harvest comes to town, when honey spills and apple swells, the wind be in the west, I'll linger here beneath the sun, because my land is best. When winter comes, the winter wild, that hill and wood shall say, when trees shall fall and starless night devour the sunless day, when wind is in the deadly east and in the bitter rain, I'll look for thee and call to thee, I'll come to thee again. When winter comes and sinking ends, when darkness falls at last, when broken is the barren bough and light and labor past, I'll look for thee and wait for thee until we meet again. Together we will take the road beneath the bitter rain. Together we will take the road that leads into the west, and far away we find a land where both our hearts may rest.
Okay, so that was
It's beautiful.
beautiful song, and so thanks again for sending that in. If you guys want to send in more songs, feel free. We love when you
we
guys
love it.
send those in, and they're so beautiful to listen to, and honestly, really enjoyed that rendition. So
gorgeous.
thank you so much. But yeah, that's the song. It's a sad kind of song that explains just what's going on, the dynamic there. So, but now it's on to Entmoot, right? I think it's on to that. They've decided that they need to go speak. In the morning, they kind of wake up, and Merry and Pippin had slept for a long time, but Treebeard had been out, sort of calling to the other Ents and sending word that they needed to get to Entmoot. They needed to
Durndingle
to gather. Yeah, that is where they're heading.
Durndingle.
Durndingle's where they're going.
Yep. I love some of the descriptions again. I just love how, just a real quick one, how Tolkien describes clouds better than anyone I've ever heard. They woke to find a cool sun shining into the great court and on to the floor of the bay. Shreds of high clouds were overhead, running on a stiff easterly wind. Mm-hmm. You can totally envision that morning and what that would feel like.
Right.
Yep. And they have a drink and they head off, right?
Yeah. Then they're off, and I like that they eat more just because
it's what a hobbit does.
They do. Yeah. Right. It's not that they're even hungry, really. So they move on, and I'll skip down here basically where it says that once they get to the to Durdingle, they several Ents had already arrived. Right, more were coming in down the path, and some were now following Treebeard.
Yeah, this would be a cool image to see too.
Right, as they grew near, the hobbits gazed at them, and they expected to see a number of creatures much like Treebeard. Basically, they realized that they're not alike. They realized that the Ents are different, very different.
Right.
They thought they'd be more like Treebeard, but yet they're very unique and different, although they have the same look and glow in their eyes.
Yeah.
Which to me makes me think
really
more and
cool.
more that they are, like, I don't know, really different. Like, it almost makes you go back and look, when you look for an Entwife or you look for Ents, like how they could be different.
Yeah.
They're taller, they're bigger, but they're not what I picture in the film. That's just not when I read this. But
Sure. Yeah.
okay, so let's see. At first, Merry and Pippin were struck chiefly by the variety they saw. Right, as we said, the shapes and the colors. And then soon, once this whole company was assembled, they're standing in this wide circle around Treebeard. Curious and unintelligible conversation began. The Ents began this slow murmur. Right. First one joined, then another, until they were all chanting together in this long rising and falling rhythm, now louder and louder on one side of the ring, now dying away there and rising to and fro. So almost, to me, a chanting and like a song.
Yeah.
Which is neat because you go back to the origins of this world that we're in, and its origin coming from a song.
Yeah.
From song.
And you almost kind of think about the song that you hear when you're out in the woods, right? The creaking of trees, the swaying of branches.
Right. That's why we have
nature's music.
Exactly, like that we have that ambient soundscape. We've got that sound of the woods or wind through the trees and things like that. They make
Isn't it amazing too how that kind of stuff comforts us so much that you can use that as a sleep aid.
Exactly, it's crazy.
It is true music.
Yeah,
it's the truest music there is.
Right,
yeah.
Right.
Yep.
So, anyways, so that they couldn't understand much of what was being said or the words.
Right.
He supposed the language was Entish. Pippin found the sounds very pleasant to listen to at first, but gradually his attention wavered.
Yeah.
After a long time, the chant slowed. There was no signs of slackening. He found himself wandering. Since Entish was such an unhasty language, whether they had yet got further than
good morning.
Good morning.
Yeah, that's right.
Treebeard was to call the roll, or how many days it would take. Blah blah blah. So he kind of wondered what the Entish is for yes or no, and this is where he's kind of like just drifting and wondering. And as he's kind of wandering around and yawning and stuff, Treebeard immediately takes note of him, and he says, "You all are a hasty folk. I was forgetting that. And anyways, it is wearisome listening to speech you do not understand."
Yeah.
So he tells them they can get down.
Around.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so they're able to kind of move around.
And they go off, and they kind of have this cool vantage point where they look out and they see the mountains in the distance, and they catch a glimpse of the plains of Rohan.
Yes.
The green glimmer in the distance, which is pretty cool. So they have you can imagine this vantage point at the this rim around the dingle.
Yeah, around right. They had to go south to the dingle.
I'm actually not using all my dingle lines.
Yeah, I know you're not.
Because there are others that
there are so many.
They're just here.
They're really right there.
I wouldn't even be making them up
in the text. They're
in
right
the book.
there.
So
That's the direction they had to go.
Yeah.
You'll find it.
Yeah.
Keep track of the directions. But as you know, they're also looking at. So after they kind of wandered away a little bit, they're wondering.
Oh, they see Isengard, don't
about
they?
Isengard, yeah. They're wondering what goes on there. What does it look like? What is Isengard like?
Yeah.
And Mary kind of describes it or had done some reading or listened in on some of the conversation and explains its location to Rohan and the Gap. And he says it does not seem the sort of place for Ents to tackle. So they're talking about its sort of defenses and things. But I have an odd feeling about these Ents. Somehow I don't think they are quite as safe and funny as they seem. They seem slow, queer, and patient, almost sad, and yet I believe they could be roused. If that happened, I would rather not be on the other side.
Yeah,
right?
Absolutely.
So there's that. And then so the hobbits turned back. The voices of the Ents were still rising and falling in their conclave. And so they're kind of... the murmuring of the Ents kind of goes on. It seemed very strange and remote in this where they're at. It's outside of their world. and far from everything that had ever happened to them. A great longing came over them for the faces and the voices of their companions, especially for Frodo and Sam and for Strider. So I thought that was interesting.
Even, too, just them talking about as they're walking around, just kind of taking their time, that it was pleasant to feel cool grass about their toes again and not to be in a hurry. Especially after either being carried or being forced to run all that time with the orcs, that it was nice to just kind of not have to do something for a bit. And they've been on a journey this whole time. There's always been, up early, let's go, up early, let's go. They're kind of at a point where they can just sit back for a second.
Right.
And they appreciate that. Yeah.
Yep, for sure. Now, so let's move on. So basically this moot goes on for a while. And as it's going on, they take note of the hobbits, but someone has already decided that they're in. There we go. They want to go, face Saruman and hold him accountable for the things that he's done.
Yep.
And that is Quickbeam.
That's right.
Is that his name?
Yep.
Yeah. And so he has a real name. I don't.
Bregalad.
Bregalad. Thank you.
His Elvish name.
There's his Elvish name. I gotcha. Okay. And but we'll call him Quickbeam. And
I like him a lot too.
I do too, actually.
He's so cool.
Yeah. And so he kind of takes them off, and they have their own little.
Takes him to his house.
His house, and they have a nice little.
I love that Treebeard's
chat.
like, hey, you're done, Quickbeam. Maybe these hobbits are getting really bored. You could take them off and kind of entertain them since you're a hasty
fella.
you guys will get along.
Right.
I love just I don't know, because you think of Treebeard being very thoughtful, and you get the impression that all these Ents are kind of sad because the forests are only shrinking and there are no more Ents. But Tolkien just says, all that day they walked about in the woods with him singing and laughing, for Quickbeam often laughed. He laughed if the sun came out from behind a cloud. He laughed if they came upon a stream or a spring. Then he stooped and splashed his feet and head with water. He laughed sometimes at some sound or whisper in the trees. Whenever he saw a rowan tree, he halted a while with his arms stretched out and sang and swayed as he sang. Just the joy. I don't know. I just think this childlike laughter. What a cool character, man.
Well, yeah, and
amidst all this sadness and war, there's this tree who just. It makes me want to stop and laugh more. Take note of the beautiful things.
Enjoy it. Yeah.
Enjoy it.
Well, I mean, he talks about that tree type, that what is it? Rowan tree.
Yeah.
And he talks about how that was something that he grew up around, and how they had planted those in hopes that the Entwives would find them appealing.
Yeah.
And they said that they knew where there were better blossoms and there were better, richer fruit were growing. Yet there are no trees of all that race, the people of the rose, that are so beautiful to me. And these trees grew and grew till the shadow of each was like a green hall, and the red berries in the autumn were a burden, and the beauty and the wonder. So he's really in love with this tree and this image and stuff. And so he's very upset that the orcs came and cut those down and took some of them. And here's my question, man. Like, if the Entwives could come back, would they? Do you think they're wanting to come back? I think they are.
Wow.
I think eventually there's a longing, right?
Yeah.
Because again, you've got to multiply and things like that. And I think again, their mind was on other things, and that's fine.
Yeah.
That's fine.
Yeah.
To a point, but then eventually you need the Ents.
So did they ever long for the Ents in the same way the Ents longed for the Entwives?
Exactly. I think it may have come much. I think it may have come much later,
or less frequently, even. Maybe?
Or less frequently.
Yeah.
But I think they're in a position somewhere where they cannot get back to them.
Yeah.
And that is, I think, what makes it sad. Is that like they kept seeking these other lands and they wanted to go.
Maybe they went too far.
Maybe they went too far. Maybe the war. Maybe they were captured again, and they were taken and things. So, there's that whole piece that kind of just mystifies me.
Maybe as they're just off making a podcast.
Yeah.
I don't know. You think?
They might be.
But why not?
I mean, they should. They got all that spare time on their hands.
Let's
I guess,
do it for them. If not, we got to get the name just right, though. What do you think? You got anything off the top of your head?
Let's see. The Treebeard podcast.
Oh, I like that too.
The Treebeard podcast.
I like that. Kind of like Freebird almost.
Yeah.
How about this one? The Real Entwives of Fangorn.
Yeah. The railhead. That's actually really
Pretty good, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's see. My Dern Dingbarrow. I can't even say it. My Dern Dingleberry podcast. Oh gosh! Of course you would. Yeah.
Maybe the La 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 Roomba Kamanda Lind or Barume podcast.
Sure, that sounds good.
Maybe
That's kind of long.
Getting close. Well, don't be hasty. That's
Yeah.
another one.
Don't be hasty.
Don't be hasty.
That is a good one. I like that.
The Don't Be Hasty podcast. Well, that's with episodes 2.5 hours long, isn't that kind of us?
We're getting close.
Yeah. People say we ramble.
I'm gonna go ahead
We
and
were
say
just Entish.
We were. I would get right. That's right.
What are you
Don't
gonna
be
say?
hasty. Don't be
Don't
hasty.
be hasty,
I think we're getting
Master
really close
Ezra.
there, though. That's where we're at. So, yeah.
One of these days.
All right. That's.
One
I
of these
like
days.
it. Oh, let's see if we can finish this.
That was
Let's see if we can
fun.
get this.
I did put a picture of a rowan tree in the dock. If you'd like to take a look at it, it's beautiful. I am
Oh my
unfamiliar with the rowan
gosh.
tree.
Me too.
I don't know. Hopefully, I'm saying that the right way. It's gorgeous, though. Yeah, I would put that up in hopes that an Entwife would make her way back too.
Absolutely.
So,
Okay. So he goes on and he actually sings in. He sings a song, I think, right? Doesn't he sing a little bit of a song?
yes,
It
he
does
does.
a chant there, right? I think this is for some of the trees that have fallen, right?
Yeah.
And how upon their hair how white the blossom lay. I saw you shine upon a summer's day. Your leaves so light, your voices so cool and soft. How golden red the crown you bore aloft. And so he's just kind of, I think, paying, tribute. Your crown is spilled and your voice is stilled forever and a day, right?
Yeah.
And he names some of them there, I think. So
And those berries, and the flowers as well, they do look like it's kind of crown shaped, the tree.
yeah.
Yeah.
And so that put the
Beautiful.
hobbits to sleep, that song.
There you go. So Treebeard didn't bore them. It was Quickbeam.
Right. It was Quick Beam. It's too hasty.
Or maybe, it was maybe just really comforting, I would imagine.
Well, and
Can you
also-
imagine a tree singing to you?
They've been at this for a while, right?
Yeah.
So
Yep.
the next day they spent
Yep.
in his company. They did not go far from his house.
Yeah, just
Most of
kinda
the time they
hanging out.
sat silent under the shelter of the bank, for the wind was colder and the clouds closer and grayer. A second night came, and still the Ents held conclave under hurrying clouds and fitful stars. So again, another day goes by. The third day broke, bleak and windy. At sunrise, the Ents' voices rose to a great clamor and then died down again as the morning wore on. The wind fell and the air grew heavy with expectancy, right?
Yeah.
So the afternoon came, and the sun, going west towards the mountains, sent out long yellow beams between the cracks and the fissures of the clouds.
Just
Suddenly,
personificate, or what's mirroring what's happening,
yeah,
right? The breaking of
breakthrough.
this light through.
yeah, they had a breakthrough, right?
Yep.
And suddenly they were aware that the forest was very quiet,
Yeah.
and it was listening silently. Of course, the Ent voices had stopped.
Yep.
What did this mean, right? And Quickbeam kind of was standing there, erect and tense, ready to kind of go. He was looking back northward towards Durndingle, right?
Standing around.
You're killing me. You're killing me.
You said it.
I know.
Just they're in anticipation of what's about to come their way, man.
Right.
And then they hear a great crash and a great ringing out. Rahumra! The trees quivered and bent as if a gust had struck them. There was another pause, and then a marching music began like solemn drums, and above the rolling beats and booms there welled voices singing high and strong. We come with roll of drum, to runda, 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 rum. The Ents were coming. Ever nearer and louder rose their song. We come with horn and drum, ta runa, 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 rum.
Wow.
Regalad picked up the hobbits and strode from his house.
Yeah.
Game on, baby. Let's
Yeah.
go.
Da-dum, da-dum,
Go give
da-dum,
Saruman
da-dum.
what was, what's due to him.
Yeah.
Little tree chopper.
Well, yeah, and so that's what they say. That eventually he joins up, and they had called out to Treebeard, and then he caught sight of Quickbeam and the hobbits,
Yep.
and come join the moot. We are off. We are off to Isengard. To Isengard! The Ents
I
cried,
love it,
right?
man.
To Isengard, and so they sing on a bit, and they march. They continue, quick beam. His eyes are kind of shining again. His eyes, right?
Yep.
And he swung into line.
Yep.
Beside
with
Treebeard.
The old Ent now took the hobbits back and set them on his shoulders again, and so they strode proudly at the head of the singing company with beating hearts and heads held high. Though they had expected something to happen eventually, they were amazed at the change that had come over the Ents. It seemed now as sudden as the bursting of a flood that had been long held back by a dike. And I don't know why in this moment I read this and it made me feel like, or it made me imagine or try to grasp what it would be like to be put back on the shoulders of Treebeard.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Leading this, like not only 14 feet high up in the air, and that's enough, on his back, on his shoulders, with all these, looking around left and right and seeing all these Ents marching and knowing what you're going to go do and feeling that energy that they have.
Yeah.
I mean, that'd be amazing.
It is.
That'd be the biggest rush.
It is. Yeah, they've got to be fired up.
Yeah.
Because they're now part of something, and they're on their own path here
Yep.
with Treebeard and the Ents. I mean, it's such a crazy thing to have two hobbits like, you know what I'm saying? Like they're like this is it sometimes gets overlooked, but it's such a cool little bit here. I mean, they are a part of the force that really helps Rohan survive.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because they're off to Isengard.
And really, it just helps break it down from being being attacked on from the east and the west to just the east, just Mordor.
Right, exactly.
Instead of having two powers to contend with, let's clear one out. It's just one now.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, okay. So a couple quick things before we end here on this chapter. Down with Saruman. Right, that should be the name of a podcast. Down with Saruman.
Down with Saruman.
And he says wizards should know better. They ought to know better, and so they're ticked, man. They're upset.
Mm-hmm.
And they talk about how strong the Ents are and what can they do with when they attack Isengard. And he says, you do not know perhaps how strong we are. Maybe you have heard of trolls. They are mighty strong, but trolls are only counterfeits made by the enemy in the great darkness in mockery of
Isn't
Ents.
that crazy? Yeah.
As orcs were of elves. We're stronger than trolls. And, we are made of bones of the earth, and we can split stone like the roots of trees, only quicker.
Mm-hmm.
Far quicker if our minds are roused. And so, I mean, these guys, they're good to go, man.
Yeah.
They're good to go. They're going to split some of the stone there at Isengard and hopefully bring it down, bring it to rubble. But Saruman will try to stop you, won't he? Yes, that is so. I have not forgotten it. Indeed, I have thought long about it. But you see, many of the Ents are younger than I am by many lives of Treeves. They are all aroused now, and their mind is all on one thing, breaking Isengard. So, I mean, seriously, Saruman has underestimated, this group here.
Then there's this moment too. Treebeard marched on, singing with the others for a while, but after a time his voice died to a murmur and fell silent again. Pippin could see that his old brow was wrinkled and knotted. At last he looked up, and Pippin could see, just imagine like being in Pippin's point of view here too, could see a sad look in his eyes, sad but not unhappy. There was a light in them, as if the green flame had sunk deeper into the dark wells of his thought. Of course, it is likely enough, my friends, he said slowly, likely enough that we are going to our doom, the last march of the Ents. But if we stayed at home and did nothing, doom would find us anyway, sooner or later. And that really is the theme of this whole story, isn't it?
It is.
He just really just ties it up right there. Is
Doom.
Doom's on its way no matter what. You can go out and meet it, or you can let it find you.
Yep. That thought had long been growing. Yep.
How is that not? It's just so inspiring that no matter what you're going through in life, where you are, that can give you so much hope.
I love too that he says that he should dearly have liked to have seen
Fimberthrill.
Yeah, Fimberthrill. I can't say it.
Yep.
But he would have loved to have seen her one more time.
Yeah.
So that to me makes it even more serious. It's like they wanted that one last chance, but it's time. It's our time to do something.
Yep.
And I can only imagine that the
just how much he loves her
would
too.
be proud of them.
Yeah.
Wherever they are, and if they heard this song or this tale, maybe that's their sad story, trying to get back, and that they weren't there. The Ents had to make their march, and they had to take on Isengard, and some of them died.
Come on, bro.
But I don't know, man.
Oh my gosh.
The songs will be sung,
Jeez, get out of here.
But essentially, that's the chapter there, guys. I mean, they go on and they talk just briefly about they've been hasty and that as they march they grow a little more cautious and stuff. But like I think it kind of leaves it in a place where when we come back to them, what will rouse them again is what they see. Yeah. As a group. Yeah. It's the same thing that Quickbeam is. So you'll understand why Quickbeam is so ready to go.
There's also that crazy part too about like Pippin rubbing his eyes and thinking he's seen some kind of crazy shadow, but he sees the forest has marched with them as well. Yeah. How crazy is that? Yeah. Pippin looked behind him. The number of the Ents had grown. Just real quick, because this is nuts. Yeah. Or what was happening. This is after the dusk had fallen, and they were, kind of on the footsteps of Isengard. Yep. Pippin looked behind him. The number of the Ents had grown, or what was happening. Where the dim, bare slopes that they had crossed should lie, he thought he saw groves of trees. But they were moving. Could it be that the trees of Fangorn were awake and the forest was rising, marching over the hills to war? He rubbed his eyes, wondering if sleep and shadow had deceived him, but the gray shapes moved steadily onward. There was a noise like wind in many branches. The Ents were drawn near to the crest of the ridge now, and all song had ceased, and night fell. Yep. And then Treebeard ends that by saying, night lies over Isengard. Yeah. And it's really cool. Like, one cool connection, as we finish, is that Tolkien went and saw the play Macbeth when he was young. And I don't. Here we go. This shows my ignorance. I don't know Macbeth. Yeah. Never read it. Don't know. I'm not familiar with the story, but I know that there's this part where people think that the forest is moving. The trees are moving, and it turns out to be a couple guys dressed as trees or whatever. Mm-hmm. The story goes that, and Tom Shippey tells it really well, that Tolkien was like so disappointed that's the reason. Like he was like, what a missed opportunity. It should have just been that the trees were marching, that the trees moved. And so that's why he that was his inspiration for that, for having, the Ents march and having Fangorn Forest actually move. And anyway, just really cool how, other things can inspire, you can be inspired by something that you think wasn't done quite right. You can take that and be like, I'm going to do it the right way, the way I think it should be done. Right. Like those people were really close.
Oh yeah, they were.
That
exactly.
was close.
Well, what's neat about the Macbeth play is that like it was a part of like a prophecy. It was something. Yeah, it was sort of like
cool.
It is kind of neat. It's like when these trees or when this forest moves, and so what they thought was it was very supernatural, and how could that happen? Yeah. Right. Yeah. And then in reality, it was that they were cloaked and disguised as trees, and they're moving forward. But no, you're right. And and Tolkien's thinking, why didn't the whole forest move like the prophecy said? Yeah. Why, that makes a lot of sense. That's when Macbeth would be destroyed or vanquished. Got it. Yeah, it's a really cool connection.
And this is when Saruman will
be vanquished. Exactly.
Yeah. Well, kind of.
Yeah. No. The stirring of the Ents and Fangorn itself moving against it is what will bring him down. Yep. So it's a cool connection. Man. Very cool connection.
Very cool connection. My friend. Let's get into the Bywater post.
Yeah.
Who we got a couple letters here. Mm-hmm. We have Yell's letter. Yeah. And then we also have from Caleb Smith. Mm-hmm. All right. So whose would you like to read there, Ez?
I'll read the second one. Go ahead. I'm going to type in some.
All right. Dear Lane and Ez, my name is Yell. Oh my gosh, I didn't look at his last name. Pronunciation Yell minus OW plus the U from Butterbur. Yella. And his last name is Tace. Yella Tace. You guys know Yella from the group, if you're on the Facebook group. I'm 31 years old, and I'm a Belgian teacher. I teach history and Roman Catholic religion.
Oh, wow.
And so many people, Peter Jackson introduced me in the world of Tolkien. When I saw the movie for the first time, I was 15, and I was overwhelmed. First thing I said after the movie was, I want to see this again. Yeah. 2 months later, I had seen it 3 times in the movie theaters, each time with another friend. I was asking everybody to go see that movie with me. In that time, at that time, I hated reading. Reading was boring. I could not concentrate. It was not my cup of tea. Very relatable again. But I needed to read this book. So I went to the library and I borrowed it. And the next couple of years, the book was always within my reach. I read the last couple of chapters at the shore of the Belgian coast. Wow. Whoa, that would be perfect.
Yeah.
The Return of the King will forever be connected in my mind with the sound of waves.
That's cool.
Talk about a sense memory.
Yeah.
There you go. Sometimes the book, The Grey Havens, and reality, Belgian coast, comes really close. When I turned the last page, I started to cry. It was one of the greatest weeps in my life. I mean, like, absolutely.
I get it.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Yep.
Not because of the things that are happening in the last chapters, but simply because I could not handle that I was done reading. Yeah. I saw a life without the Lord of the Rings, and I couldn't bear it. So the day after, I was back in a little place called the Shire, a few days before a long-expected party, just starting it right over again. I love it, Yella. And when the movie of The Two Towers was released, I had already read the trilogy 3 times. Yeah. I watched The Two Towers 4 times in the movie theater and Return of the King 6 times. I was addicted. The year after at school, we had to write 3 book reports. My first one was The Fellowship. My second, The Two Towers. And at that point, my teacher came to me and forbade me to write my last on Return of the King.
What? You got to finish. Oh, my gosh.
That's terrible. So I started to read the Sword of Truth series by Terry Goodkind. And after that, I read the Magician series of Feist and the books of Robin Hobb and Harry Potter. The boy who hates reading became a reader, thanks to Tolkien.
Yeah.
What a cool recurring theme.
Awesome.
Yella, you're just continuing that tradition, my friend. In that time, I also tried to read the Silmarillion, but it was way too hard. And now you're speaking my language, baby. I wasn't mature enough. I'm definitely not to succeed. I had to wait until my 26th year to succeed. Until I was 26. Now I have read Lord of the Rings 8 times. I also have read the tales of Tom Bombadil, the Children of Húrin, and the Silmarillion. That's beautiful. Yeah. But I have read them all in Dutch. Fun fact, the Dutch translation was the first translation ever made of Lord of the Rings.
Wow.
I did not know that. Shout out to Max Schuchart, the translator. But I had also the desire to read Lord of the Rings in the language of the master himself. Many times I tried and never did I succeed until now. And I want to thank you guys for that. The past 4 times I tried, it was always a struggle. I never survived the old forest. Every time the old willow of English language defeated me. Wow. What a good comparison. Man, yeah.
Yeah.
The English language is like Old Man Willow, even for people who speak English. It's true.
Yeah.
And Tom Bombadil was never there to rescue me. But now I have found my Tom and my fellowship to bring that ring to Mordor. Yes, Yella. I love it.
Holy smokes.
And what felt as a struggle in the past now feels as a nice journey. It doesn't feel hard at all this time. Maybe fate has forced me to wait until the time I can make this journey with people from all over the world. Holy cow. Talking about fate controlling that.
Yeah.
Great love, Yella. P.S. I was born in Genk. I hope I said that right. This is a neighborhood city of a little village called Brie. So stop searching. The only real Brie is in Belgium.
That's
How
awesome.
cool is that?
That's cool.
Yella, that's beautiful. He also left a link there for Google Maps. I'm going to check it out right now.
Yeah, that's really cool. I mean, I never really thought about the idea that you would want to go read it in Tolkien's words, the way in which the words, the English words that he used, you know? So that's interesting. That's really kind of neat.
That is so cool, man.
Because we do try to dive into those details and look at, I mean, there are people like, again, the Tolkien professor who look at the origins of the words and the way in which he used them and the time in which he wrote the stories and stuff. So you can do quite a bit to really get into his mind through his writing there. So that's awesome, man. I love that because he's so active in the group. So Yella's just been around and been a great positive influence. And so it's nice to finally read his story and talk about it. So
there is Brie. I'm looking right at it.
Yeah.
Not too close to the Netherlands.
Wow.
That's
That's
right on
awesome.
the border there.
That's so cool. All right, on to Caleb Smith here. And so he says, warning, this is a long one, boys. Sorry in advance.
Bring it on, Caleb.
But as we always say, we got it. So let's see what we can do here. He says, hey, guys, though I'm sure you'll see my real name from the email online, I generally go as the solitary pilot. I am from Charlotte, North Carolina, though I suppose you could consider it Bree of a sort. Well, I don't know. I don't know if we can consider it Bree now that that Yella's told us what he's told us.
So funny.
As there are some people from every walk of life in this city. That's cool. It's no Shire or Rohan, but alas, she's captured my heart nonetheless. But I want to say I love the podcast and share my share my feelings and a bit of my story. Maybe it will help some others through their own dark times. As of writing this on Tuesday, August 2nd, in the 8th day, I have listened to all save the most recent episode of the Unexpected Podcast. My line of work means solitary days and long hours, and you two help me through that more than I can put into words. Wow. As you'll read below, I'm a writer, and hearing you two talk about that's intimidating. The intricacies and the foreshadowing and the interpretations of the books does wonders in giving me writing ideas, and for that I'm eternally grateful. But let's really get into it now here. I was introduced to Tolkien mostly by my father at an age so young that I actually can't remember my first interaction with it. I am 19, but I look back as far as time will allow, and Tolkien has always been there. Just like old Tom, there's no beginning. It simply is. So when I was young, I would watch the movies and remember having so many questions that were usually met with, well, if you'd read the books, you'd understand. And so I did. Rather, I tried. In middle school first, I got through Fellowship and halfway through Two Towers, but Tolkien was too much for me then. I realized that I wasn't getting everything out of these books, so I set them down and promised to come back. A couple years later, I did, and my fate was sealed. My praise is the same as any other, and so I won't repeat it here. But I will say that I now collect an edition. Any edition I can get. I have copies of the trilogy so old that I dare not read from them in fear that the cover may fall apart, and also a few newer versions with all three books in one, and many others. I have collector's versions of The Hobbit, and in fact, I have a version of The Hobbit entirely in Latin. Why? Well, I can't read Latin, so I don't know, but hey, it's pretty cool at least. I think it's neat. But I suppose I should begin with my story. I can't tell it all, but I'll do the best I can. From a young age, likely too young, I've suffered from depression. I was lonely in elementary school. My neighborhood had no other kids save for one, but he moved away long ago, and so that's just a faint memory. It was me and my older brother, but as most older brothers are, he wanted little to do with me. I spent many nights alone in my room. No one to talk to or play with. I didn't realize it for many years, but this is where I first began to make stories.
Wow.
Yeah. Skipping ahead to middle school, things worsened. I was lonelier. For though I wasn't necessarily bullied, I was not fully welcomed either. I felt invisible, and many treated me as such. My depression worsened, and in 8th grade, I made a mistake. I went into a relationship and foolishly got attached, at least as attached as you can be at that age, but I still saw this as a chance to a change of pace. Someone finally wanted me, and I was worth something for once. 3 months later, though, yet it seemed an eternity to me, she left. I was handed a note in a freezing cold outside church one night, yet it seemed warm compared to how my heart froze. I think I matured a bit too quickly because this struck me heavily at that time. I was left for another and was bombarded by thoughts that I simply wasn't good enough. Of course, she left. I didn't deserve to be loved. So I understand. I mean, I work with. Wow. I mean that's the thought, right? I mean that's
Oh yeah.
That's where you're at. So
we've all felt that same thought. Yeah.
In 9th grade, I tried again and found myself being cheated on. Much of the same process, but having it happen twice made it much worse somehow.
That would be so hard.
10th grade heralded a similar experience at a time when I was feeling unwanted by anyone I called a friend. By anyone I called a friend as well. I wasn't texted or invited to do things or anything. I threw up my hands and swore off love and gave up on the matter entirely. 11 years was as bad as it ever got. I began working at 15, thinking it would give me a sense of pride, but it did no such thing. I simply grew tired, and around 17 felt that my soul was too old for my body. I cannot describe it, but I think Tolkien did it perfectly.
Yeah.
I felt thin, like butter scraped over too much bread. I didn't have careless worries like the others, but I was constantly tired and empty. I turned to self-harm. I was blinded by pure self-hate. I felt that I deserved the pain. I suppose you're wondering how this relates to Tolkien. And so I'd best get back on track here. Though times were dark, I found relief in writing. I never thought much of my work, but had been doing it since second grade, and around 11th, I really got into Lord of the Rings. I had read it once before, but I was much older now and understood so much more. It was like reading it for the first time, and I started writing even more. I was fueled by Tolkien and began writing a real story. It was based on a show that I watched, that I still watch, and I put two characters of my own, making. I put two characters of my own making into a world, and off I went. That's 60 cool. chapters and over 200,000 words. Jeez. Later, I finished it, and it was a feeling unlike anything else. And throughout this time, I read the books over and over, and I took Tolkien's words to heart. I found places online where I was welcome, where I made friends I thought I was undeserving of, and I eventually even found a girl who truly loved me, and now after 2 years has taken my broken pieces and helped me repair myself.
Oh, that's great. That's such good news.
Oh, man, I'm like breathing like a solid. Though Tolkien, through Tolkien, my bond with my father grew stronger than ever, as did my writing. And now, at 19, I look back and realize that it was Lord of the Rings that saved me. I'm not fully sure how, but my writing took the place of razor blades, and with every chapter, my scars faded that much more. It gave me a sense of worth, a task that I felt I had to complete.
Wow.
Now there I sit. My scars are faded and gone, though truly I can still see them, and I think I always will. But my spirit is stronger now, and though the dark thoughts can still berate me, I am able to cope with them, to prove them wrong, and to remind myself of how I am loved and wanted, even if I can't always see it. I don't know if any of what I've said makes sense, but it's the best I can do to put it all into words. The movies still inspire me to this day. I cry at the end of The Return of the King every time. I get chills when I hear the songs of the Shire, and my heart is warmed by the bonds of the Fellowship. Now I'm preparing to write a story, and a grand adventure that I hope someone might one day enjoy. Inspired by Tolkien, I've also started drawing maps, although sadly my skill with a pencil is lacking. I fear I won't ever be very good with it. My 2 years now of practice with drawing have yielded little improvement. Still, I hope to one day be able to sketch like Tolkien did and give the pictures in my mind a physical form. But I've rambled for long enough, and if you've taken time to read this, thank you. Even if you don't put it on the podcast, well,
Absolutely,
Caleb, absolutely, buddy. Thank you with all the stars in the sky, Tolkien, and you two and everyone in this community. Weave a web of inspiration and power that makes me smile day by day. I cannot tell you how happy I am that I found this podcast. I suppose this is the end, but I want to leave you with this. If ever you feel trapped, surrounded by dark with no way out, do as Sam did upon Mount Doom. Remember the Shire. Just kidding. Oh, man.
I mean, we're laughing so we don't cry.
Yeah, we are, because I mean, it's just that's how I get, guys. I get like a kind of this nervous emotion here, and how it will be spring soon. How the orchids will blossom, and the birds in the nesting. With the blossoms nestling in the hazel thicket, and the thick of the sweet taste of the first strawberries with cream. Oh Lord. Think not of the dark times of now, but the happiness ahead, and of all the times yet to come that you owe yourself to see. Wow. Think of the mugs overflowing with ale that would be toasted to good health, and the drinking songs to be sung. But remember the Shire. Remember your Shire. Caleb Smith.
Wow, Caleb.
Whew.
Inspiring words, man.
I mean,
inspiring words.
That's something, I think that's really good advice, and I think a lot of people in our group would have gone through, something like this. And so, when we shared a story kind of similar to this back during fellowship, and it's like, what are you looking forward to? What is it that keeps driving you, that keeps you going in those times of darkness? you know, and so do as Sam did upon Mount Doom,
Right.
you know.
And it's exactly what
It's hard to find. That is hard to find in those times.
I just keep thinking about his line. My writing took the place of razor blades.
Yeah.
With every chapter, my scars faded that much more. It's just beautiful. Yeah, what an encouraging story. And the power that not only those memories, but the knowledge of things to come, and also an outlet where you can create. Creating is the best thing you can do.
Yeah.
And you know, I think about, like, with me, I like to do art. And is it the best art in the world? No. Is it close? No. But does it help me? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the thing. It doesn't matter when you start judging creation. It's ridiculous. Like, it's so sad that the art world, whether it's writing or music or visual arts, whatever, the fact that we have all this competition and we grade and assess that kind of stuff, that's the one place it shouldn't exist. Yeah. Because finding your creative outlet, yeah, it really does. It takes the place of those, those negative thoughts and that pain. And wow, just inspiring, Caleb. Like, what a beautiful. Your story is beautiful, and the fact that you've shared it, like, think of how many people that will help. It's helped me, honestly.
Well, I'll tell you what, man.
Just now, just reading it, it's been, yeah.
I think one of the new themes and sayings of the podcast is remember your Shire.
Yeah.
Wow. Because
Wow.
what is your Shire? What is it
Yeah.
that keeps driving you? That you're Sam on Mount Doom, looking back and thinking of that wonderful
Rosy
place,
cotton, right?
Yeah, that
Yep.
you can get back to,
Yep.
and that's what gives you the strength to get up and keep going. So, wow, man. I mean, awesome, absolutely
Beautiful,
awesome. So
bud.
thank you
Thank
again.
Very wise 19-year-old.
Absolutely.
Jeez.
We've got so many more, Tolkien stories, Bywater post.
I love them, guys. It's our
stuff.
favorite. That's a favorite part of this entire book club.
Yeah,
it's that right
it's
there.
such a great way to kind of close up the episode and to reflect on. So, all right, my friend, let's jump into strawberries and cream here.
Strawberries with cream, yeah. So Tolkien loved trees, as we've come to really understand this chapter, if we hadn't got the message already. Tollers had one. Do you? A favorite tree, that is. Do you have a favorite
That's
tree?
interesting. Do you mean like a type of tree or like an actual?
It could be a type of tree or an actual individual. He had a favorite individual tree that he would go sit by and talk to.
Mm-hmm.
Did you know this? He'd have conversations with this tree.
Okay. All right.
Isn't that incredible?
So, yeah, that is incredible, actually. What's something that's always been on my mind, a tree that I played in for a long time growing up, it was a dogwood tree. And
those are beautiful.
Yeah, and it was I was sad. I remember being sad when it fell.
Yeah.
And I loved it.
Yeah.
But it fell and we had to. And I remember we liked it because Mom told us it was a dogwood tree. And I was like, what? The name was cool.
Yeah,
it was in a
special.
perfect spot next to the tree house
And
that
they
we had
bloom
built.
the flowers too.
Yeah, exactly.
Gorgeous. Yeah.
So I love that tree, and I love that the type of that tree. And then when I think of what I called growing up the great tree. On the way to church, we had this off in this field. You ever seen like this flat field? It's all corn, right? Imagine the biggest cornfield you've seen. Way out in the middle is a
solitary
single tree,
Yeah.
and it is massive.
Yeah,
And I mean,
I
it
love
is
that.
huge. It's like almost it looks half as thick as a redwood. It's like, and I don't even know, it's like a I don't even know what type of tree it is.
Walnut or maple or something like that.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
And it's just huge.
Yeah.
And it's just towering out there over all this corn, which is nuts.
Isn't that cool?
And I've always looked over and saw that tree and been like, wow, how was that the tree that's still there?
Yeah. It must have just been big enough that the farmers were blown away by it, right?
And they
can't
didn't
cut this one
no,
down.
we're going to go around it.
Go around it.
So,
Man.
But what about you?
My two are the ones in my backyard, actually.
Yeah.
I love our big maple. It makes me think of like the party tree, even though the party tree is different, a different kind, but it's just provides such beautiful shade, and you can lay in the backyard and look up and just, I don't know, it's beautiful.
Yeah.
And the other tree, I don't know, it's some sort of coniferous tree. I'm not really sure what type it is, but it reminds me of trees in New Zealand.
Okay.
The way it kind of like sweeps out, the branches and
Yeah.
it's asymmetrical and everything. So I just love laying in the hammock in the backyard and looking up and seeing those two very different trees and the sky beyond. And man,
yeah,
I need to start
Very good.
talking to him. I haven't talked to him yet, but I need to.
I haven't tried
They
that
have a story
myself.
to tell. Yep.
I haven't tried that myself. What I would like,
so you
Yeah.
know, when that maple dies, or when both of them die, I want to save huge chunks of wood from it and build something out of it.
yeah,
To put in our home, because that'll be a sad day when that tree goes.
yeah, I know.
That'll be really sad.
That
so
is, yeah.
I hope I don't live to see it, but you never know.
Yeah, you never know.
Never
You
know.
I would like to issue a challenge to people in the group, which is to take a picture of your favorite
There you
tree.
go.
Or a picture from your favorite tree. If you're up in the tree, or
Trim
if
your
you were,
Treebeard.
yeah, whatever. And so post those in the group. I'd love to see, because we kind of did that, like your favorite, watering hole,
Yeah.
Your place or whatever.
Your shire.
So is
Yeah.
there a tree? Do you have one of those? Like something that you pass every day that you stop and enjoy, or take a look at. So.
Yeah. Sarah has one. I could name Sarah's.
Yeah.
It's on the drive home to her house. It's this big black like walnut tree.
Yeah,
Beautiful, gnarly.
that's awesome.
Yeah. Cool. All right, man. Time for share the load a little bit.
Yeah,
Or
and
you
just
wanna skip over.
well,
it?
quickly here,
Yeah.
guys. Here's the plug for that.
You want Ezra to be able to quit his job?
Yeah, help me quit
start
my
funneling
job
him some money.
and help me quit my job and do this full time, guys. That's what I want to do. So okay,
You guys have no idea how many ideas he has for other podcasts too.
I have so many ideas, and it's just like I just need to figure out a way to make it happen. So there's that. We've gone over in time. So what do we got here? Weekly well wishes.
Weekly well wishes, formerly Fortnite farewells. We want to thank you for stepping off the road with us. Our next episode will be cantering into Chapter 5 of Book 3 with the White Rider.
If you like our podcast, don't forget to subscribe, like us, write a review, leave a comment, or send us a Shadowfax.
We'll see you in a Hobbit fortnight, and remember, Frodo lives.
When spring unfolds the beechen leaves and sap is in the bough, when light is on the wildwood stream and wind is on the brow, when stride is long and breath is deep and keen the mountain air, come back to me, and say my land is fair. When summer lies upon the world and a noon of gold, beneath the roof of sleeping leaves and dreams of trees unfold, when woodland halls are green and cool and wind is in the west, come back to me, come back